The story begins in a place near the mountains. The protagonist opens his eyes and asks where he is. A headache strikes him, and he tries to understand whether, just seconds earlier, he hadn't been playing at home. Memories flash quickly through his mind. This place is the Zhuantian continent, a world where martial artists are revered above all else, and countless people strive to enter a spiritual sect. Ahead, an old man sits in a chair surrounded by a surreal aura. The protagonist recalls that the Star Spirit sect was founded half a month ago, and that the true strength of its leader is still unknown. Today marks the first examination to recruit disciples. However, after transmigrating, he received no items or powers, and he wonders what the point of that is. First, he needs to find a temporary place to stay and wait 2 years until his cheat ability awakens. Suddenly, voices shout for everyone to look, saying that something is coming. People begin to run. An intense light appears and a figure is summoned. It is a woman who introduces herself as Luo Qiangshui, leader of the Star Spirit sect. She announces that on this day, they will not consider aptitude, age, or cultivation level when recruiting disciples. The protagonist realizes this means he also has a chance. Some boys beg to be chosen and comment on the leader's extraordinary beauty. He thinks this is typical of a fantasy world. Luo adds that there is only one requirement. Within 1 hour, whoever can deliver 10,000 spirit stones may join the sect. A voice asks if they heard correctly, if they really need to pay 10,000 spirit stones. They comment that even one low-quality spirit stone can support a family for a month. If they had one, they wouldn't be there trying their luck. They accuse them of being scammers and say that having a beautiful leader is useless if they act like swindlers. The protagonist observes that even in fantasy worlds, there are blood-sucking businessmen. A boy suggests that everyone should leave. The protagonist reflects that, according to the logic of his previous life, this is like paying first to enter a company and only afterward earning money. At that moment, the Invincible big spender system is activated. He looks at it and asks what it is, wondering if it is the result of his 2-year wait. He questions what exactly this system is, and decides that the show can begin. The system explains that, as the name suggests, it will make its host strong as long as he continues spending money. He only needs to become a great spender. The rest of the problems will be solved by the system itself. It then displays his data: name Ye Feng, 18 years old, mortal realm, ordinary physique, no martial arts, no skills, no items, and 0 big spender points. New notifications inform him that the system will provide unlimited spirit stones of any type, with the immortal spirit crystal being the circulating currency in this world. However, he must understand the concept of major spending. Small spending does not count, and wasting large sums without judgment only leads to loss. Only by spending in the correct proportions can he earn points, in addition to completing random missions assigned by the system. Reckless daily spending on expensive products may result in point loss, and improper excesses will lead to corresponding deductions. Big spender points can be used to raise the user's realm, increase proficiency in martial arts, extract abilities, and even acquire special items. The protagonist concludes that this is not about spending without thinking. He may be rich, but he is not foolish. The system then assigns a mission: join the Star Spirit sect. If he succeeds, he will receive 100 big spender points. If he fails, 100 points will be deducted. The mission can be rejected. Ye realizes he has truly been given a choice. An old man questions whether everyone there isn't from poor families and asks if this was done on purpose to prevent recruitment. Luo replies that she knows this, but the decision not to become members is theirs, not hers. Even if their parents knew, there would be nothing they could do. She thinks her father must have gone mad when he told her to open a sect in that place, saying it would help sharpen her mind while she stayed there. But to her, it is clearly only delaying her cultivation progress. However, her father does not know that in her previous life she was a saint of the Eternal Sanctuary, who fell victim to a conspiracy and was reborn in this world. For her, ascension is all that matters. She must cultivate without pause to reach a higher level. After passing the tribulation and ascending to the upper realm, the first thing she will do is inform her master about her downfall. If she does not eliminate those people with her own hands, then her name is not Luo Qianshui. The sect leader tells Elder Bai that they should leave, since there is no way anyone will appear to hand them 10,000 spirit stones. Even if someone truly had that amount, why would they waste it all on a newly established sect like theirs? At that moment, a voice speaks up, saying that since the sect is newly created and must be short on resources, this disciple is willing to provide 100 low-quality spirit stones. Luo asks how that is possible and discovers it is the protagonist. The elder then asks if he is saying he is willing to give them 100,000 spirit stones. Yes smiles and thinks that, in that case, he might as well play the fool and join them. He releases energy and summons a ring. The sect leader takes the ring, checks it, confirms that there are indeed 100,000 spirit stones inside, and wonders how they managed to make a madman like him decide to join the sect. Luo coughs lightly and says the sect does not even have a proper place for him to live, asking if he's sure he wants to join. The protagonist tells her not to worry since he can hire people himself to build a place within the sect. The leader insists they are extremely poor, lacking students and resources, and that he is completely mistaken about them. Ye tells her to relax. If cultivation resources are lacking, he can buy them. He will purchase whatever is necessary. At the same time, he wonders why this fairy-like sect leader seems determined not to let him join. Luo grows irritated and wonders where this lunatic came from, wanting to use money to buy cultivation resources as if he had completely lost his mind just to enter her sect. She tells him to be quiet and asks if he cannot see that she does not want him as part of the sect. She makes it clear that even if he becomes a member, she will not oversee his cultivation training. He will not learn much there, and will have to rely entirely on himself for everything. The protagonist is surprised and thoughtful at the same time. The leader believes he is hesitating and thinks that, as expected, after hearing all that, anyone would be afraid and leave. However, Ye tells her not to worry, that he wants nothing from her, and thinks that this way he can complete missions freely without anyone restricting him, wondering where else he would find a sect as good as this one. Luo ends up kneeling on the ground. Feng does not understand what is happening and calls out to her. The sect leader thinks he spent 100,000 spirit stones just to enter, and wonders how he can be happy about that. It irritates her deeply, and she is certain the heavens sent him to torment her. She even draws her sword, but the elder tells her to stop making things harder for herself. He is the only disciple who meets the requirements. He has already joined the sect, and now she cannot reject him. Meanwhile, the protagonist remains confused about the whole situation. Luo declares that from that moment on, he is officially a disciple of the Star Spirit sect. The system congratulates him for completing the mission, informs him that he received 100 big spender points as a reward, and also congratulates him for spending 100 low-quality spirit stones, saying that during that event it was a reasonable amount to spend. Ye thinks that his spender points have finally begun increasing at an aggressive pace. Although he still does not know much about the specific uses of these points, he considers it better than nothing and wonders whether there are other missions available and what he should do if there are no high-spending missions. The system then notifies him about high-spending activities and tells him to look for a quick prompt, explaining that there is no direct link between the amount of resources consumed and high-spending points, as long as there is relevant activity during the spending. Feng comments that since he is the only disciple in the sect, that means he has become a direct disciple. Luo replies that it does not count because this sect does not accept direct disciples. She thinks that although she said she would not take care of disciples, she promised her father she would be responsible for their cultivation training in the future, but it seems he truly wants to be her direct disciple, and that is not going to happen. The protagonist then tells her to name the price because he is rich. The sect leader is surprised and wonders if he intends to buy the position of direct disciple as well. She says it is interesting and states that it is possible, as long as he hands over 100,000 high-quality spirit stones. If he can truly produce that amount, the sect will make an exception and accept him as a direct disciple. Ye shows surprise. A gust of wind sweeps through the area. Feng asks what she just said. Luo simply smiles and reflects that his confidence will surely disappear. After all, they are talking about 100,000 high-quality spirit stones. Not even a third-rate sect could gather such a fortune, so how could a mere mortal manage it? The protagonist asks if that is all. He then slips his hand inside his robe and says there are 500,000 high-quality spirit stones there, adding that the remaining 400,000 are a gift to her for accepting him as a direct disciple. He thinks he is truly a prodigy at wasting money and cannot miss the opportunity to obtain the title of direct disciple. The system congratulates him again for spending the appropriate amount and rewards him with 200 big spender points. Luo is even more astonished and thinks that he treats 500,000 high-quality spirit stones as if they were nothing. If he went to any third-rate sect with that amount, even the sect leader would treat him like an ancestor. The leader places her hand on her forehead and declares that it is decided. From that moment on, he is a direct disciple of the sect. She then gives him a black sword as a gift. Internally, she thinks that if news of this spreads, her reputation will be ruined. The system notifies him that he is an invincible spender and questions how he can simply take someone else's belongings, deducting 20 big spender points. The protagonist thinks the system worries too much about insignificant details. Ye then kneels and returns the sword. The leader asks what that means. Feng replies that he does not deserve the gift. The black sword is a valuable item. He does not wish to accept it, and if she insists on giving it, she may set a price. Luo takes back the sword and says that just because he is rich does not mean he can buy everything with money. If he cannot accept her goodwill, then forget it. She thinks that the profound black sword is a treasure, a 7th-class spiritual weapon of the 7th rank, and wonders if he truly has the courage to return it. The leader moves swiftly and the protagonist comments that she also refuses profit even when he offers money. The elder advises him not to keep talking since she can still hear him. Bai reflects on how a mere mortal can possess such an absurd amount of resources. He decides to let it go and thinks that the young woman's mind is like a pool of stagnant water. If she does not experience change, her cultivation will not advance and she will remain stuck at a bottleneck. The appearance of a rough stone like him may be something positive. The elder then says they should go, as he will personally escort him to the sect. Later, near the mountain, birds fly across the sky. The protagonist begins counting how many there are and finds it boring, wanting to ask the system what the points are truly for. Ye forms something like a nest above his head, attracting the birds closer. He wonders whether in this fantasy world there are spiritual roots, innate talents, and divine bodies, and what the true use of big spender points is. The system displays his status again and informs him that on the Zhuantian continent, cultivation is divided into 9 realms: Spirit Sea Realm, Spirit Gathering Realm, Spirit Fusion Realm, Foundation Establishment Realm, Soul Formation Realm, Palace Realm, Primordial Soul Realm, Void Realm, and Transcendence Tribulation Realm. Each realm has 9 layers. To advance each layer in the Spirit Sea Realm requires 10 big spender points. In the Spirit Gathering Realm, it requires 100 points per layer. In the Spirit Fusion Realm, it requires 1,000 points per layer. Feng thinks the required amount for each breakthrough is somewhat excessive. In the Spirit Fusion Realm alone, it already costs 1,000 points per layer. The system then presents the Big Spender Shop. The protagonist begins reading the descriptions and sees that an energy source costs 100 big spender points, offering a 90% chance of obtaining quality spiritual herbs and an 80% chance of acquiring other resources, with the probability not changing as the user's cultivation improves. He considers the product somewhat expensive, but thinks that if there is a chance of obtaining a 9th-grade spiritual herb, spending 100 points is worth it, since there is a 10% probability of acquiring it. He also shows interest in top-tier spiritual ores, and wonders what exactly they are used for. The system notifies him that spending large sums on the various categories of containers that hold special items is considered a high-spending activity. The higher the level of the container, the more points he can obtain. However, this type of activity requires specific circumstances. Ye thinks that would certainly attract more hatred than he could handle. After all, he is just an ordinary man showing off in front of immortals. He concludes it is better to use some points directly and orders the system to use 90 points to raise his cultivation to the 9th layer of the Spirit Sea Realm. Suddenly, Feng begins releasing a surreal energy. The elder asks if the brat is trying to open his own Spirit Sea. The two are standing on a floating sword. Bai watches closely and wonders how this is possible. He is not merely opening a Spirit Sea. Where is such an enormous amount of spiritual energy coming from? It is enough energy to open several Spirit Seas. The size of the Spirit Sea he is forming is equivalent to that of 20 ordinary men combined. In all his life, he has never seen such a genius. The protagonist remains with his eyes closed, immersed in the world of his own consciousness until he suddenly opens them. Ye wonders what is happening and whether it really takes this long to open a Spirit Sea. If so, how much longer will it take? The elder senses the spiritual energy intensify again and questions whether he is trying to break through to the 2nd layer of the Spirit Sea realm. Opening the Spirit Sea is equivalent to establishing one's foundation, a crucial process for any cultivator. It not only requires a quiet and stable environment, but also external assistance, such as consuming medicinal pills that increase the chances of reaching the maximum level when opening the Spirit Sea. Moreover, even after successfully opening it, time is needed to stabilize it. Bai thinks he cannot sense any medicinal pills in the boy's body. Furthermore, sitting on a flying sword, no matter how stable, it would be difficult to meditate properly, let alone open a Spirit Sea and break through several layers of the same realm. He wonders how this can be real. The protagonist remains motionless, eyes closed. The elder, still in disbelief, mutters, "Spirit Sea Realm, 3rd layer. Spirit Sea Realm, 4th layer. Spirit Sea Realm, 5th layer." Ye keeps his eyes shut. The elder, increasingly indignant, questions whether he has already reached the 9th layer of the Spirit Sea Realm. Feng then awakens and thinks that, unexpectedly, it took a full 10 minutes to complete everything. He had imagined it would be done in an instant, opening the Spirit Sea and reaching the peak of the 9th layer in just 10 minutes. If his master finds out, will she consider him a useless disciple? Bai reacts to the word useless and wonders if he is calling that trash. If he is trash, then what would he himself be? He recalls that when he had sufficient resources to cultivate, it took him 8 months of hard work to reach the 9th layer of the Spirit Sea realm. And that was under the condition of possessing a powerful technique and guidance from an experienced cultivator. He then understands why the boy showed no interest in the sex techniques. He probably already has an extraordinary cultivation method. The protagonist asks what technique he is talking about since he has no technique and no spiritual roots. The elder states that is impossible. Bai places his hand over the boy's head, using sensing energy to examine his body, and steps back in shock upon confirming that it is true. He truly has no spiritual roots. Ye asks why he would lie. The elder wonders whether he really opened a spirit sea or whether it is some special type of sea, like a vast ocean. He decides they will have the master personally examine his condition, and thinks that since he is not his disciple, he will let the young woman deal with this strange problem. The two then continue forward. Elsewhere, Luo asks why they took so long to arrive. Bai replies that her precious disciple did something extraordinary. He opened a spirit sea 20 times larger than hers and broke through to the peak of the 9th layer of the spirit sea realm. And there is more, he has no spiritual roots. The leader immediately rises from her chair and says she will check personally. Bai is still in shock. Luo places her hand on the disciple's head, confirms that he truly has no spiritual roots, and asks how he managed to open his spirit sea and advance like that. Shortly afterwards, still in the same place, the leader announces that the Full Moon sect has come for a formal visit and requested that the Star Spirit sect receive them. An elder questions how her sect can be so shameless when it cannot even sustain itself as a sect with only one disciple. Luo grows irritated, thinking she already hates this situation. That strange disciple is troublesome enough, and now another setback appears. She wonders when she will be able to cultivate in peace and questions what exactly brought those people there. The man asks if she is the leader of the Star Spirit sect and says he heard that to join the sect one must pay 100,000 low-quality spirit stones. He says he was shocked when he heard this and, for that reason, brought his disciples to test the one who recently entered through that method. Luo thinks that if she did not even have a single disciple, she would have rejected the demand outright. She wonders why so many problems keep appearing in her path and reflects that if he is driven mad by the opponent and defeated, he may become traumatized and abandon the sect forever. Even so, she says the opponents came from afar, and refusing the fight would damage the sect's reputation. She notes that there are 3 cultivators at the 9th layer of the Spirit Sea realm, and asks if he is confident he can defeat them. The protagonist thinks that the Heavenly Thunder Talisman will be useful in situations like this, and asks if he can use talismans during the battle. Luo replies that he can. The man remarks that she should not favor her disciple too much and should let them learn from each other on their own. Ye smiles and begins to summon something. They are Heavenly Thunder Mountain talismans. Everyone is shocked and comments that there are so many talismans. The man grows indignant because each talisman can release a 9th grade aura wave, the highest classification, and each one equals a strike from a cultivator at the 9th layer of the Spirit Sea realm. No matter how many disciples fight him, they will not be able to win. Feng orders the Heavenly Thunder talismans to explode. The 3 boys protest, asking how that can be called a fight and telling him to stop. The protagonist is excited, saying it is very fun. Explosions begin to echo. All who watch are stunned, thinking these are 9th grade talismans. Each costs 1,000 low-quality spirit stones on the market. Against an opponent of the same realm, he should keep something like that as a trump card. Yet he is using them as if playing. They wonder why he is wasting something so valuable. An even more violent explosion erupts. The boys shout to retreat. They say that Brat is unbearable, that they cannot take it anymore, that they cannot withstand another explosion of Heavenly Thunder talismans. They conclude that the Star Spirit sect must be a rich and powerful clan, since it allows disciples to use 9th grade talismans as toys, and that they never should have provoked this sect. Luo watches and thinks that group is useless, being completely suppressed by her tyrannical disciple. Ye looks at his master and smiles. The sect leader wonders if he is really looking at her and decides she cannot allow him to think she is afraid, as if she had sent him to face the 3 enemies without caring about the outcome. She must show her strength and make it clear that she deserves respect. Hours later, more explosions continue to resound. Feng says it is very fun, and that he will continue since he is not tired yet. He can fight without stopping until the end, battle without exhaustion, and afterwards still test more talismans and endure their attacks. The boys fall into despair and beg their master to save them. The man thinks the background of this spiritual sect must be truly grand and powerful. No wonder the recruitment criteria were so strict. He concludes that he dug his own grave by coming here. He admits they were reckless and caused trouble and promises to offer generous compensation another day as an apology. He says that when they meet again, they will part properly. Another explosion echoes. Luo watches coldly and asks if he thinks the Star Spirit sect is a place one can enter and leave at will. She states that he is in the primordial soul realm, a powerful cultivator of that level. The man thinks the sect leader is only at the peak of the soul formation realm and that, with her strength, she could annihilate the full moon sect alone. The leader declares that she will release them only after each pays with an arm. The man replies that he understands. Then, each of them has an arm severed. The man speaks in a cold tone. Luo orders them to leave immediately, and he agrees that they will go. The protagonist thinks his master is truly ruthless. The leader tells him to put away the heavenly thunder talismans and thinks that this time she failed to drive him away. Ya asks if he can help her with anything, and the master asks with what. Feng replies that there are still more than 9,000 talismans left and that they cannot simply throw them away like that. Luo hesitates to speak, tries to calm herself, and thinks she must maintain her image as a saint. Yet she feels that the disciple is greatly underestimating the value of those powerful talismans. She questions why she should care so much since she cannot simply curse him. She tells him to hand them over, thinking that it seems he still has many things stored away. The two then begin a truly immersive game of wasting talismans. They keep counting how many are left, until an intense light bursts forth. The sect leader watches in silence. A voice calls out to her, telling her to stop cultivating all day and come watch the fireworks with him. Luo replies that they can go by themselves as she has no time for that. Her junior sister insists that she should not be so rigid. Cultivating too much is not good, and from time to time one must relax. Otherwise, when the moment of final breakthrough arrives, she may regret not having enjoyed life and asks whether that would not be even more painful. Luo reflects that she may be right. After all, one only lives once. Meanwhile, the elder is fast asleep, snoring loudly. Suddenly, an extremely bright light appears along with a thunderous boom. Bai wakes up in shock and asks if it is an enemy attack. Lightning begins to fall. He looks more closely and realizes he was mistaken. They are just heavenly thunder talismans. He hurriedly gets up, puts on his coat, and asks what on earth they are doing. The sect leader tells him to sit with them as they are only destroying heavenly thunder talismans. The protagonist suggests they burn them all together and have fun, since they are very tired. The elder calls it absurd, saying he is doing something extremely foolish. A single piece of those talismans is worth thousands of low-quality spirit stones, and even if the Star Spirit sect is rich and powerful, they cannot waste resources like that. He also scolds his lady, asking how she can act so recklessly. He says those stones are worth a great deal of money. Then Bai notices something different. The protagonist comments that he is already very old, makes too much noise while sleeping, and can use those 100,000 high-quality spirit stones to buy a tonic and strengthen himself. The elder asks if he is mocking this old man and declares that despite his age, he is still full of vigor. He asks when the youngsters will finish throwing everything away and orders them to hand over the remaining talismans to him. He quickly gathers the talismans scattered across the ground. The system congratulates the user for spending once again and informs him he will be rewarded with 100 spender points. Feng observes and thinks that this method really works. Next time, he can spend some spirit stones and ask the elder for help again. The next day, a massive crater marks the ground. Bai is exhausted and thinks he has lived too long, unable to believe the day has come when he became physically and mentally drained just from burning a few talismans. He says that in the future they should come to him if there are more problems. He's not that old yet and still has plenty of strength. The sect leader reflects that although the sect has only 3 people, she feels that something great will happen in the future. She comments that he is one of the 8 elders of the Polaris sect and that he sold himself for only 100,000 high-quality spirit stones. Bai replies that it is not about spirit stones but about preserving this old man's dignity. The system once again congratulates the user. He successfully wasted money on the spender product of the day and will be rewarded with 1,000 spender points. The protagonist thinks he has managed to raise his cultivation level and that with the remaining points he can buy 5 containers of any type in the shop. Currently, the sect has only 3 people. If he relies solely on the old man to earn points, it will be far too slow. If he had a junior brother to guide, he could obtain points several times faster than now. To help his master make the sect 100 times better than before, he must take on all expenses. That way he will have no difficulty accumulating big spender points. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door asking for permission to enter and whether the sect is still recruiting disciples. A pressure spreads and the ground cracks. The boy who arrived looks at the scene and thinks there is a strange old man who seems about to die at any moment, a woman too frightening to get involved with, and a young man who does not seem very intelligent. He wonders whether this sect is truly safe and whether he should run before it is too late. The protagonist answers that he is correct. The sect is still recruiting. If he can pay the fee of 10,000 low-quality spirit stones, he may join easily. He can also become a direct disciple of the leader if he has more than 100 high-quality spirit stones. As for him, he is the first disciple of the sect and the leader's direct disciple. He secretly hopes the boy will say he has no money because he himself will pay all the expenses. The system notifies that this type of action does not fit into major spending activities unless the user presents a reasonable justification. Feng thinks that the moment he saw that boy, he realized he was his long-lost half-brother who came there to become his younger brother, so there is no problem spending a little money on him. New notifications appear stating that the user's explanation seems valid and that he should spend the appropriate amount of high-quality spirit stones on him. The boy comments that before climbing the mountain to get there, he heard people saying that the condition to enter the sect was somewhat strange, as they do not consider age, aptitude, or cultivation. He had doubts, but asks if it is really true that with 100,000 high-quality spirit stones, one can even buy the direct tutelage of the sect leader. The protagonist touches his shoulder and asks him not to leave yet and to think it over. The boy replies that he cannot, he is in a hurry. At that moment, a spirit manifests and suggests that he remain in that sect. When he finishes his own matters, he will look for him, and until then he should stay there so he can be at ease. The boy thinks he understands. The spirit adds that, after all, it is a branch sect established by Wuming's daughter, and that Bai, that old fox, is also there. Thus, his Wu Feng will be safe. After that, still in the same place, Ye declares that he wants this little brother and asks everyone to look at him, saying he is so adorable. The boy reflects that although he does not understand why his grandfather sent him to stay in such an unreliable place, he has always obeyed his orders. The sect leader states that everything is fine. He only needs to hand over the fee of 10,000 low-quality spirit stones to join the sect, while thinking about how Feng dares to recruit disciples in her place. The inconvenient part is that she is responsible for all his actions now that he is a member of the sect. The positive side is that the newcomer apparently does not want to stay there, so she can send him away quickly. The boy hands something over and says that there are 10,000 low-quality spirit stones and that she can check if she wishes. He thinks there must be a reason for his grandfather to have ordered him to remain there. Luo coughs lightly and says she needs to clarify something first. Even if he pays the fee, he will not have access to any sect benefits. He will not receive resources or cultivation techniques, and most importantly, she will not take care of his cultivation. She asks if he is still sure he wants to join. Internally, she thinks that this time she will not back down and will ensure that at least one person is driven away. The boy replies that she should not worry as he does not want anything from her. He reflects that in fact, he is an alchemist and that his grandfather has already provided him with everything he needs, so he does not need anything at the moment. The elder congratulates her for obtaining another excellent disciple for the sect. The leader says she is tired and will go rest. Training will begin the next day. She explains that inner and outer disciples reside in the courtyard, and that in any case, they are the only two disciples in the sect for now, so they should rest well. The protagonist thinks it is difficult to understand his master. She clearly stated that she would not train them, but now says she will. He was planning to spend money on this junior brother, but never imagined he was also rich. This will not help increase the number of direct disciples. He alone is enough to occupy that position, and remains the only direct disciple of the leader. Luo comments that everything feels like a dream. Ye realizes he has not yet asked the new member's name. The boy replies that his name is Leng Wu Feng. Feng comments that he truly is a junior and, through a document, declares that he is officially an inner disciple of the sect from that moment on. Leng wonders whether he will really be fine obeying his grandfather's orders. That guy seems to have a screw loose and is the most unpredictable person there. The next day, the protagonist says he has already moved into that room and asks about his. Wu Feng replies that he has also arranged everything and invites him to come in and sit for a while. Ye smiles, enters, and looks around the surroundings. He is surprised to discover that he is an alchemist. Leng confirms that he is. Professionals such as pill alchemists, weapon masters, talisman specialists, and array masters are extremely valued and hold high status. If he reveals his identity, most people will admire him, since even a simple medicinal pill, an ordinary talisman, or an artifact can determine someone's cultivation level and, consequently, their survival in the future. Many people have already asked him to prepare pills, but he has never accepted. Now that he has become a member of the sect and met his senior brother by chance, he will certainly ask him to produce pills, and then he will be satisfied seeing his reaction. Moreover, if he tells his senior brother that he is actually a specialist who has reached the 9th layer of the spiritual fusion realm, the maximum level, He fears he might shock him to the point of collapse. Feng remains standing still, merely observing the surroundings. Wu Feng asks what is wrong with his reaction and why he seems so uninterested. He questions whether he should not be more surprised and praise him non-stop, yet he only received a dull response. The protagonist then asks if he knows which third-grade spiritual herb is the most valuable. Leng replies that ghost bamboo grass, snow spirit flower, purple thunderfruit, and fantasy mushroom are among the rarely found herbs and are valuable even to 9th-grade pill alchemists. Yes says he already knows and thinks that the system mentioned exactly those items: ghost bamboo grass, snow spirit flower, and purple thunderfruit. He then opens 4 bottles of each herb in the shop. The system notifies that the user spent 1,200 big spender points on bottles of medicinal herbs and congratulates him. He received 2 ghost bamboo grasses, 1 snow spirit flower, and 3 purple thunderfruits. Leng comments that he is not a pill alchemist and that even knowing the names, he probably would not understand their value. He asks him not to misunderstand as he is not mocking him. As an alchemist himself, he has only seen illustrations of those herbs and has never encountered them in person. Feng says he must be thirsty after working all day and that he will fetch him a glass of water. The protagonist runs out quickly. Wu Feng thinks that although this senior brother seems a bit strange, he still shows consideration. Later, he intends to prepare some pills to help him cultivate. He notices that he returned quickly. Ye comes back with a tray and a soup. Leng looks with a strange expression and asks about the ghost bamboo grass, the snow spirit flower, and the purple thunderfruit. He grabs the herbs and turns around. Feng, not understanding, asks what he is doing. Leng thinks that such precious and rare spiritual herbs were mixed like that in water. He never imagined seeing items so hard to find across the entire continent. He begins to say that those herbs are actually extremely valuable, but notices they disappeared from his hand. The protagonist explains that he heard that even if spiritual herbs mixed with water are not as effective as medicinal pills, they are still useful for cultivators like them. It was his fault he thought those few herbs would be enough. It seems the gift was not appreciated, but from the beginning they were luxurious items. Leng tells him to wait and states that they are exactly the rare herbs he just mentioned. He goes to verify if they are authentic and is shocked. The system congratulates the user for successfully spending again and grants 1,500 spender points as a reward. In Leng's room, Ye thinks that he earned points. He received 500 for each crushed herb, spent 1,200, so he made a good profit. Wu Feng states that if he does not understand the potential of those herbs, he should ask first. For alchemists, they are priceless. Herbs like that are so rare that not even his grandfather saw one in his lifetime, and he cannot believe they were destroyed in that manner. Feng sighs and comments that he did not imagine those herbs were the same ones mentioned moments ago. He had no idea. In any case, they were already crushed, so it is better to clean up the mess and rest. He says he will take his leave. 5 minutes later, a basin is filled with water, and the protagonist puts his feet inside, saying his legs are becoming soft and numb, as expected from spiritual herbs. Ye's skin gradually begins to darken. Wu Feng knocks on the door and says he does not know how he obtained those herbs, but he needs to warn him of something. He's not being greedy, not at all. The 3 herbs can be used together or separately as medicine, but when ghost bamboo grass is mixed with purple thunderfruit, a toxic poison is formed. It is not fatal, yet it can cause serious problems. Meanwhile, inside the dormitory, Feng panics and asks what is happening, why his legs turn so dark and why he cannot feel anything. Leng thinks the situation is serious. Wu Feng breaks the door down and finds him with his feet immersed in the herbal water. The protagonist, desperate, asks what happened to his leg. He recalls that Leng had explained the importance of the herbs and questions what he should do. Has he become crippled? Can he still be saved? He begs him not to say that the leg will have to be cut off. Leng states that he really used that kind of herb to soak his feet. The system congratulates the user for spending heavily again. It grants 1,500 big spender points and informs him that it can remove the toxins from his legs for 1,000 points. Ye feels tempted and thinks that those herbs were not only for showing off. With so many accumulated points, he wanted to experience a luxurious life for the first time and enjoy the medicinal effects of those rare herbs. But everything turned out differently than expected. Wu Feng says he came to warn him that if ghost bamboo grass is mixed with purple thunderfruit, the combination becomes highly poisonous. Ye thinks about using 1,000 spender points to remove the toxins from his legs. Feng looks down and realizes they are no longer dark. Leng is extremely shocked and wonders how that is possible, since this kind of poison should be very difficult to eliminate from the body. He then asks why he is soaking his legs again. The protagonist thinks it is great to soak them once more, and that it does not matter if it is highly toxic, because he can use points to heal himself. After all, it is relaxing, and besides, if someone gets poisoned, he can spend points to cure that person as well. He says the basin is big enough for 2 people and asks how about soaking their feet together. He assures him the feeling will be wonderful, like being in 7th heaven, and that they do not need to worry about toxins because he will take care of it. Wufeng thinks that water is definitely poisonous and feels afraid to put his feet in it. He says it is better not to, and wonders whether he should report what happened to the sect leader, since regardless of whether those herbs belong to the sect or not, they are still priceless treasures. Leng reflects and decides it is better not to, because he is not someone who reports others. Meanwhile, in the dormitory, the protagonist asks the system to consume another 100 points to eliminate any remaining toxins. In addition, he uses 900 points to raise his cultivation to the peak of the 9th layer of the Qi gathering realm. In the main hall of the sect, the leader comments about Ye and asks who the hell he really is. The elder replies that they still do not know, but with time, his true nature will naturally reveal itself. And he asks whether it is not interesting to uncover, layer by layer, what lies behind that mysterious veil. He thinks the most important thing is that Ye has the power to disturb her state of mind. Luo says she feels as if that idiot was sent by the heavens to torment her, and there is also that Leng who seems to be the same type. Suddenly, an energy begins to move in the air. The two watch carefully. The leader states that the source comes from the residence of the inner disciples. The elder asks if he had not just reached the peak of the Spirit Sea realm, and whether he is now preparing for another breakthrough. Bai thinks about Fang and wonders if this is once again a continuous ascent with an explosion of breakthroughs. He says they should go first. That boy will not be defeated easily. The pressure around them increases, accompanied by overwhelming energy. The elder begins to announce first layer of the Qi gathering realm, now second layer, already third, fourth, fifth layer. An intense light bursts at the top of the mountain. Bai, stunned, declares that he reached the peak of the 9th layer of the Qi gathering realm and questions whether, with one more step, he will reach the spiritual fusion realm. Suddenly, everything stabilizes. Luo says it seems to have ended. The elder, even more shocked, says that in 5 minutes, without spiritual roots and without a master's guidance, he directly broke through from the peak of the 9th layer of the Spirit Sea realm to the peak of the 9th layer of the Qi gathering realm. He crossed an entire realm in one go, and even faster than when he went from 0 to entering the Spirit Sea realm at the beginning. His cultivation speed can be considered number 1 across the entire Zuantian continent. The leader comments that it is no wonder he was so confident before. It seems he truly does not need her guidance. She asks whether he thinks that in just a few days, he will surpass her as well. Bai thinks she praised him too much. The young Mrs. Talent for cultivation has always been the greatest in the sect, yet even she took half a year to go from the Spirit Sea realm to the Qi gathering realm. To comfort her a little, he explains that although it is true that breakthroughs become easier as one reaches higher realms, they do not depend only on opportunities. Cultivation resources and supporting elixirs are required. This requirement becomes even more evident upon reaching the foundation establishment level. If Ye wants to reach it, he will need to cultivate diligently. He hopes everything truly stabilizes like this, otherwise it will be a great blow to her. In another place, Leng wonders whether that is really his unreliable senior martial brother, and thinks he is terrifying because he advanced from the Spirit Sea realm to the peak of the 9th layer of the Qi gathering realm in a single breath, while he himself is still satisfied with his current layer. He questions whether his senior martial brother is even human and concludes that it is interesting. No wonder his grandfather asked him to remain in that sect. He will certainly stay there and work hard. The next day, the protagonist looks at the system, which displays his now much higher status. He notices that only 310 points remain and comments that it is a waste. Did he get dizzy from the toxic water yesterday? He spent 2,000 valuable points for nothing, and now only a few are left. He decides to wait a little. Ye takes out a pill and asks what exactly this third-grade profound cleansing pill is, what the 9 stripes on the seal mean, and whether it is something like a 9-striped dragon. He says he does not understand and should look for Brother Leng. He will quickly use these pills and also bring some rare spiritual herbs, imagining that his junior brother's expression will be amusing. Leng sneezes and wonders how he caught a cold on his very first day there. Feng looks for Wu Feng but cannot find him, until he wonders whether his junior brother was so shaken yesterday that he decided to run away. The elder asks if he is looking for his partner, and the protagonist asks whether he has seen him. Bai replies that after learning Leng is a third-grade alchemist, the sect leader took him early to the nearby city to buy spiritual herbs, and says he will help him find him. A bird approaches and lands on his head. Feng reflects that he did not expect the city to be so far away. It is 5 hours by flight, and he wonders whether he should ask Elder Bai about other uses of those herbs. He asks if he has heard of ghost bamboo spirit grass, white soulflower, and purple thunderfruit. The elder replies that among third-grade spiritual herbs, those three are among the rarest, and, for alchemists, they are priceless. He does not know much beyond that and says it would be better to ask Wu Feng. Feng comments that they truly are precious. No wonder his junior brother said he was wasting valuable resources by using them for a footbath. They continue flying on the sword until Bai asks whether he really used the three rare herbs to soak his feet. The protagonist replies that he should try it too. However, combining ghost bamboo spirit grass with purple thunderfruit produces a strong toxin, so next time he will get some for him. The elder asks if he managed to obtain more and says that if he gets those herbs again in the future, he should remember to save some for this old man. After 5 hours, they arrive at the city. Bai tells him to walk around for now, as he needs to take care of something and will look for him later, but emphasizes that he must not cause trouble. Old Bai walks away and thinks he can finally meet his brothers to drink wine among flowers. Feng looks around and wonders what the Sea-High Pavilion is. Qingshan Smithy seems like a good place to forge weapons, and Wangchun Tower, with so many women outside, must be an entertainment venue. The protagonist walks through the city and asks about the Tianyu auction house. He reflects that the system always says he spends too much. But if the sect members are not around to protect him, what will he do if he faces danger? He fears he might be doomed. The system notifies him that it provides a legion of divine guardians. If the host encounters a life-threatening situation, they will appear to handle the crisis independently, but only against enemies who directly threaten his safety. That sounds satisfactory. Ye enters the auction house and thinks he cannot wait to ask junior brother Wu Feng. There should be an alchemy appraiser there. An attendant asks if he can help him. Feng replies that he has some pills to sell and asks whether they can be auctioned in that prestigious house. The staff member informs him that a 6th-grade alchemist is responsible for evaluating pills and leads him to him. A person approaches. It is Cao Shan, who asks what grade the pill he wishes to auction is. The protagonist replies that it is a profound cleansing pill. Cao comments that it is only a simple 3rd-grade profound cleansing pill until he notices something and becomes shocked, asking if those are 9 stripes. He states that it is actually a 9-striped profound purification pill. Ye asks whether it is really that powerful. Cao replies that it is. Creating such a pill requires extreme care, as any small mistake can result in an incomplete pill. Although it is 3rd grade, it can normally only be consumed by cultivators in the spiritual fusion realm, the Qi gathering realm, or the spirit sea realm. However, with 9 stripes, its effects are maximized. The most he has ever seen was 8 stripes on a top-quality pill. Feng asks what 8 and 9 stripes mean. Ashan explains that a complete pill corresponds to 10 stripes, each stripe representing 1/10 of the total potency. 2 stripes equal 20%, and so on. To this day, he has never heard of anyone who created 10 stripes, not even in the lowest quality pills. Even a pill with only 1 stripe is far more effective than consuming spiritual herbs directly. Being able to create stripes is a significant milestone for any alchemist. The protagonist leans on the counter and asks how much that pill will cost. Anshan replies that a 3rd-grade pill normally is worth tens of thousands of low-grade spirit stones. But this profound cleansing pill not only removes impurities from the body, it also has 9 stripes. The exact value is hard to estimate and will probably only be determined at the auction. Surprised, Ye asks whether this seemingly insignificant pill is really worth tens of thousands of low-grade spirit stones. Cao finds it strange to hear him call it insignificant, and Feng asks when the auction will be held. Anshan says today is a lucky day, as there will be an auction that very afternoon. The protagonist says he has another identical one and asks whether they can contact the auction house manager to include both pills in the afternoon event, adding that he will come back later to collect the spirit stones once they are sold. He mutters that this miserable pill is unexpectedly so expensive, and that he wants to see how many big fools will bid on it. Anshan wonders who he is calling big fools. Later in the forest, Ye walks while chewing something and comments that it is not a bad snack and even tastes good. Suddenly, he stops when he notices an animal. A dog wakes up, and the protagonist approaches, saying he made some quick calculations and discovered that he and the dog are destined from this moment on. The animal will follow him and can eat as much as it wants. Since it is so hungry, it will surely eat a lot. This time, he will spend all 10,000 profound cleansing pills. Even if the 4 members of the sect eat together, their cheeks will swell. Next time he receives pills in a loot, he will give them to the little yellow dog to eat. If people in this world realize they live worse than a dog, they will collapse. After eating a lot, the dog lies down and Ye calls it to take a bath first, saying that afterward it will start working for him. A few minutes later at a restaurant, Feng enters carrying the dog in his arms. The protagonist goes upstairs, but the animal is still dirty, and an employee stops him, saying dogs are not allowed inside. Ye asks how many spirit stones are needed and tells them to charge the price of a first-class guest room because he wants to bathe his dog. The employee replies that as long as he is there, no amount of money will allow the animal to enter. Feng dislikes the attitude. Soon after, a bucket of heated water is prepared with ducks and fish nearby, and the employee approaches saying that if the water is not hot enough, he can heat another bucket. The protagonist tells him to leave. In the room, the dog takes a bath and the system notifies that it is reconfirming that this expense does not count as extravagant spending. Ye complains that paying 10 times the price for a room does not count as extreme spending and asks what the dog is looking at, telling it to hurry up and clean itself because it needs to start working after the bath. If not for this, he would have easily gained another 100 points this time. Feng holds the dog and says it is so foolish that it should try to increase its intelligence if it ever gets the chance. Later, still in the same place, the dog eats while the protagonist comments that it is just a silly little dog that does not even check for poison and thinks that from now on it will be his hard-working servant. He decides to go out and see if he can find something fun. The dog keeps eating until it raises its head, and the pressure around it begins to increase. An hour later, Ye tells it to hurry up and keep eating, asking whether it became lazy after consuming just over 2,000. The dog awakens and Feng says that if it does not want to eat, that is fine, since he's also too lazy to wander around, so they will sleep together. The protagonist picks it up and walks toward the bed, commenting that being a complete big spender is truly exhausting. While they sleep, the dog begins to glow, and at that moment, Ye has no idea that the animal beside him, after consuming the 9-striped profound cleansing pills, is undergoing a transformation into a beast. Elsewhere, Bai comments that he finally managed to get there, but spent the entire morning out, and the old man beside him asks whether he only ever shows up to ask them to pay for a meal. He replies that at the Purple Phoenix City branch of the auction house, they receive 2 special pills, 3rd-grade profound cleansing pills, and asks whether he knows how many stripes they have. Bai asks about profound cleansing pills and comments that if the matter kept him busy all morning, they must have more than 7 stripes, wondering whether they were refined by those old fellows. Xia replies that they have 9 stripes and that there are 2 pills. He does not know who refined them, but a young man brought them to the auction house to sell. He personally examined them and states that these 2 profound cleansing pills can be considered perfect, very close to the ideal state of 10 stripes. Bai calls out to him and asks whether he knows the name of that young man. Xia answers that he does not. The boy left no name and did not even pay the deposit required by the auction house. He simply handed the pills to an appraiser and left, saying he would return later to collect the proceeds from the auction. Bai immediately thinks of Feng. Xia adds that, based on the information he gathered, that young man does not seem to care about the 2 pills at all and is very likely from some hidden sect or sacred land. Bai continues linking everything to Feng and tells Xia to come with him, saying he will take him to meet someone. The old man asks who it is. Bai replies that his young miss founded a sect, and that the person he will introduce is her direct disciple. Xia questions what is so special about meeting a direct disciple, and Bai answers that he simply does not understand. At the same time, at the auction house, Luo is present, and comments that the 2 of them are very lucky. She did not expect to encounter 9-striped profound cleansing pills, something she has never seen before, just as she was looking for spiritual herbs for him. The leader smiles and says that these 3rd-grade 9-striped pills will be extremely beneficial for both of them, and that today, regardless of the cost, as their master, she will do everything she can to obtain them. Leng becomes excited and thanks her. Luo asks what he thinks about the way she treats them. Wu Feng hugs her leg and says she's very kind. Luo thinks he can admire her all he wants, but her direct disciple is still someone else. Elsewhere, Bai announces that they have arrived. Xia observes that the door seems locked and asks whether he is sleeping. Bai says that a qualified cultivator should not waste precious time sleeping. The elder then breaks the door open and enters the restaurant, noticing several pills scattered in a bowl on the floor while Feng is asleep and so is the dog. The protagonist asks why he is there and whether he has finished his business. Ye notices that the dog is still sleeping and comments that it is always sleeping, asking why it has not finished eating the pills. The dog kicks a few of them aside. Xia says he thinks he just saw something unbelievable, and Bai states that those are 3rd-grade 9-striped profound cleansing pills. He would like to keep them as a family heirloom for future generations, yet a dog is rejecting them. Xia asks whether he, a 9th-grade alchemist and head of the auction house, is inferior to a dog. Bai replies that this is no ordinary dog and asks whether he has not noticed that the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth is flowing into the animal's body. He explains that although it is extremely rare, at this rate, in less than a year, that little yellow dog may become a demonic beast. There is no demonic bloodline in its body. It is undergoing a direct transformation from an ordinary wild beast into a demonic beast, and its body is completely pure. Zia asks how many third-grade 9-striped profound cleansing pills were given to the dog. The protagonist asks whether he is talking about him, then starts counting, saying it was not that many, just a little over 2,000. Shia is furious upon hearing a little over 2,000 and asks the elder whether this is the great disciple of his sect, someone who feeds a dog such precious pills without showing the slightest concern. Bai retorts, asking how he could possibly care. This boy is so rich and powerful that he himself works for him, so how could he show concern? Zia questions whether he is not one of the 8 elders of the Star Spirit sect and an expert of the 3rd layer of the Transcendent Tribulation realm, on the verge of reaching the 4th, and yet claims to be working for a disciple of his own sect. Bai answers that there is no helping it, he gave too much. Ye then asks the elder whether he could help him financially as usual, with 10,000 high-grade spirit stones, thinking there is no alternative since the dog is starting to become picky. He needs to hurry and finish the remaining 7,000 profound cleansing pills and might need assistance. Bai asks whether he is trying to make him help eat the pills and wants to know how many are left. Feng replies that there are still more than 7,000 remaining and that they must be consumed before that night, asking whether he has any problem with his teeth. The elder says he is not old yet and that his teeth are perfectly fine. Xia observes and wonders if he agreed that easily and whether he might be wearing dentures. Feng then pours the pills onto the table and tells him to start eating. Bai looks surprised but begins to eat anyway. The protagonist asks why the little dog is just watching and tells him to hurry and eat the remaining deep, profound pills on the ground, otherwise he will be cooked. Xia remains still, completely stunned, and comments that everyone has gone mad. Ye asks who is the biggest pill eater. Bai keeps eating and thinks he never imagined 9-striped deep, profound, pure pills could be so delicious. Although their effects are no longer useful to him, eating them is still pleasurable. He recalls that he once took 9th-grade deep, profound, pure pills with 5 stripes, and a single pill nearly consumed a tenth of his savings. Although they were effective, the taste does not compare to these 9-striped deep, profound pills, even though they are only 3rd grade. If he had had this opportunity 60 years ago, perhaps everything would be different. Yes says that if he does not want to eat them, that is fine. He can receive 100,000 high-quality spirit stones. Xia says he would not understand. If he and the elder had taken such deep, profound, pure pills in the past, they might have already transcended the heavenly tribulation and ascended to the upper realm, instead of being stuck without seeing a real chance of advancement. He reflects that both of them are at the peak of the 3rd layer of the Transcendent Tribulation realm. Although they could have reached the 4th layer long ago, they did not dare to break through because they are not sure they could withstand the 4th layer tribulation. If they fail, they will perish. The protagonist says he understands and asks if he will be able to help the elder in the future. He states that he certainly will not leave such help unrewarded and suggests 100,000 high-quality spirit stones as compensation, just like that day. Xia wipes the tears from his eyes and asks whether he himself is not from the Star Spirit sect. Then he says it is fine. He will help him. After some time, still in the same place, Ye thinks everything is moving too slowly and wonders when the master and senior brother Wu Feng will arrive. The elder asks whether those 2 deep, profound, pure pills also belong to them and thinks his cheeks are hurting. Perhaps it is better to eat more slowly. Ye confirms that yes, those 2 pills are also theirs. He says these miserable pills can be sold for tens of thousands of low-grade spirit stones and that he only wanted to see who would be the scapegoat. Xia thinks that selling them for 1 million low-grade spirit stones would not be expensive and wonders if he put them in the auction house just to find a scapegoat. The sect leader approaches and says she sensed their presence. They are in the 3rd room on the east side of the 2nd floor. The senior brother and the elder are there. Leng comments that he never expected the master to spend a fortune to get something so good for them. Wu Feng goes upstairs and, holding a box, asks his brother to take a look. Luo is curious to see his reaction and thinks that no matter how rich he is, these pills are not something that can easily be bought with money. This time, everything depended on luck. Leng announces that the master bought deep, profound, pure pills. The leader asks why he is not going in. Wu Feng hesitates to speak and only points with his finger, seeing everyone there eating pills. When Luo observes the scene, the box falls from her hands. Her excitement shatters. It is her darkest moment. Everyone is surprised to see her there, and Xia murmurs something about the scapegoat. Luo says that in the end, everything was ruined. The miserable pills that her disciple casually placed in the auction house were the ones fought over by countless bidders in a fierce struggle. She believed those pills would change the course of the situation, but in the end, they were only the scapegoat created by Feng. She asks if he thinks she is ridiculous. The elder replies that it was for their own good. Leng calls his brother and asks if he can eat those deep, profound, pure pills. Xia and the elder say at the same time that finally, there is someone to eat together with them. The protagonist replies that of course he can eat as much as he wants until he is satisfied. Wu Feng becomes excited and declares that he will rise with the help of the pills and restore his former cultivation, but the sect leader asks him not to rush like that. Suddenly, Lung notices something: the dog on the ground. He thinks this is not good, because ordinary wild animals are naturally attracted to pills of this kind. If the dog eats them, it will be ruined. Wu Feng tries to grab the dog, but the animal escapes and kicks the pills away. Lang is startled, and Xia comments that as a sect leader she should act with caution when discussing matters, managing finances and providing services, and that considering her role as master, she should have greater influence over her disciples' actions. These precious 9-stripe deep cleansing profound pills are priceless treasures, and he gave more than 2,000 to that dog, which is simply an absurd waste. Feng replies that, after all, dogs eat faster than people. Leng says she never imagined she would be living worse than a dog. The protagonist tells everyone to quickly finish the deep cleansing profound pills. The sect leader wonders how she ended up with a disciple like him. An hour later, everyone is lying on the floor, completely full, saying they cannot eat anymore. Ye observes that there are still not enough people, since more than 2,000 pills remain. Feng has an idea, but Luo says he cannot force her to eat. The protagonist insists that she finish them, since a little over 2,000 are left. The leader states that she can guarantee a large sum of money to buy the remaining pills. If they are sent to her father's sect, many talents could be cultivated. Ye replies that it is not that he does not want to sell them. The problem is that he cannot because all these pills were given by the system, and if he sells the leftovers, he will certainly lose points for not wasting them. Luo says she will pay 10 times the price. Suddenly she realizes something and questions how a sect master can be discussing money with her own disciple. Besides, this disciple with such an inexplicable background does not seem like someone who needs money. She covers her mouth. The protagonist comments that the taste of the pills is really good and asks if she does not want to try one. Luo asks where he got that plate from. She picks up a pill and examines it carefully. 2 hours later, the sect leader also helps finish the pills. Everyone is completely stuffed. The system congratulates the user for successfully contracting and for wasting all the items of the day. Rewards: 1,000 big spender points, 3 9th level 9-leaf resurrection herbs, and 5 units of 9th level grass. Rewarded items that are consumed wastefully do not grant a large number of spender points. The host may use them as he wishes. The protagonist asks whether, besides spender points, the system also grants other rewards. Luo sighs and asks whether, as sect master, he thinks what she is doing is interesting. She says there is no need for cultivation guidance or resources, and on top of that, she ends up earning extra money from her own disciple. The elder comments that he also suspects Ye is less a disciple and more the sect's god of wealth, although an excessively extravagant one. The protagonist asks whether they have heard of the resurrection herb. The leader sighs and says, here he goes again. Xia asks if he is referring to the 9-leaf resurrection herb and says he knows it very well. The elder says it is a legendary spiritual herb. Xia explains that the 9-leaf resurrection herb, commonly called the resurrection herb, is a plant whose individual leaves each possess the effect of an ordinary resurrection herb, all the more so the 9-leaf one, which is extremely rare. He has never even seen a single-leaf resurrection herb in person. These herbs are the most crucial ingredient for refining the resurrection life-saving pill, and there is no substitute. If someone consumes this pill within 24 hours, even if the soul has been extinguished, they can be brought back to life. Xia adds that for any expert in the transcendent tribulation realm, the resurrection life-saving pill is a treasure they would desperately desire. With the protection of this pill, even if the body is destroyed after failing a tribulation, the soul can be preserved, and it will be possible to rebuild the body in the future. After explaining this, he asks why he is bringing it up, and questions whether the elder knows the spiritual bamboo grass, the white soul flower, and the purple thunder fruit. Xia replies that he does. These 3 types of herbs are extremely rare, although the major sects possess some quantities, and asks what about them. Bai comments that the boy was soaking his feet in those 3 herbs the day before. Xia is shocked and asks what that means. Bai concludes that if he even possesses 9th level 9-leaf resurrection herbs, there is no need to explain much to understand that it is something legendary. And this time, he definitely must not use them for a simple foot bath. The protagonist says he has 3 plants and that using one to soak his feet should not be a problem. He thinks that although he is a rich spender, he is still rich, so he should enjoy what he can. If soaking his feet in a 3rd level herb is already excellent, how could he not try a 9th level one? Xia immediately reacts, saying that under no circumstances can that happen. and asks if he truly possesses 3 ninth-level 9-leaf resurrection herbs. He tells him to name the price, no matter the cost. He wants all 3. Even if he must hand over everything he owns, he will do it, because 9th-level 9-leaf resurrection herbs can refine a pill capable of bringing the dead back to life. Using them for a foot bath is not just wasteful, it is sheer madness. For a moment, everyone falls silent. Ye approaches his master and states that this 9-leaf resurrection herb is a symbol of his filial respect for her. The sect leader thinks that as her personal disciple, he has already given 100,000 high-grade spirit stones, added 400,000 as a gift, and now offers a priceless 9-leaf resurrection herb. She wonders what she is supposed to do in the face of this. The protagonist insists that she simply accept it. Luo feels as if she's being adopted by her own disciple. She thinks that this 9th-level 9-leaf resurrection herb cannot be accepted, that this is not right. In the future, when facing tribulations, she herself may need the life-saving pill. Ye declares that he will definitely use a 9th-level herb to soak his feet and that no one can stop him. He states that if they help him with some manual labor in the future, it is very likely that one of those herbs will be theirs. Bai asks whether he also has the right to a share and comments that by putting in some effort he could obtain a 9th-level 9-leaf resurrection herb. Xia asks what he thinks he is doing. Bai retorts that the herb belongs to him and he should not even consider it. Xia replies that it is nothing serious. He simply feels that he might obtain one of those herbs. Bai tells him to quickly return to his place and that he will take care of the sect's affairs. Leng thinks that if senior brother truly uses a 9th-level herb for a foot bath, perhaps she can join him, even if only for a moment. Xin pushes Bai. They say that in ancient times there were those who honored their fathers, and now Xia is surrendering. Xia comments that he spent half his life wandering and only regrets not having joined the sect earlier. He says that if little Qianshui does not mind, he wishes to become an honorary elder of the Star Spirit sect and asks whether she can grant this. The sect leader replies that he is a 9th-level alchemist with formidable cultivation at the 3rd layer of the transcendent tribulation realm, whose auction house covers nearly 1/5 of the continent, and yet he still wants to join the humble Star Spirit sect. Xia confirms that he does. He recalls that when she was young, he held her in his arms and says that if she disagrees, he will speak to her father. He thinks that this boy can casually take out 3 legendary herbs and offer them as gifts, while still intending to use them for a foot bath. That means such treasures are not so important to him. Therefore, he must possess even more extraordinary things. If he does not act quickly, he will lose the opportunity. Luo asks about his auction business, and Xia replies that he will leave everything in the hands of his unreliable son. Bai comments that he is ruthless. Xia responds that he has always wanted to see that helpless expression on his face and states that who receives the resurrection herb will depend on each person's performance. Luo questions what the purpose of all this is and thinks the situation has gotten out of control. She did not want to expand the sect. It was already surprising to gain 2 new disciples out of nowhere. And now a 9th-level alchemist also appears wanting to join. The protagonist suddenly asks whether any of them know about the golden silkworm star gem. Xia asks if he possesses such gems. Ye replies that he does not. He was only asking. He notices that everyone is staring at him as if they want to devour him alive, and concludes that this golden silkworm star gem must be even more incredible than the 9-leaf resurrection herb. Bai states that he certainly has star gems hidden and simply does not want to admit it. Leng asks where he summoned the god of wealth from and how he can have everything. Someone begins to tremble. It is the sect leader. She orders them to return to the sect immediately. Bai asks if something happened. Luo replies that it is nothing serious, only that her father has arrived and said there is an important matter to discuss, but she feels that he is there merely to inspect the sect. After 5 hours already at night, the sect leader returns with everyone. Qianshui announces that she is back and that she truly disappointed him. The old man keeps a serious expression and the pressure around them becomes intense. She asks why her father appeared so suddenly. He replies that he is disappointed. The previous day was the recruitment for the Star Spirit sect, so where are the disciples? He thought she would be excited, that someone would offer him tea upon arrival. He brought many things to distribute among the disciples, but there was not a single person. He waited alone until late and no one returned, so he had to send a message. Luo coughs and points out that those 2 are the recruited disciples. The one on the right is Ye and the other is Leng. Luckily, she has these 2 to serve as proof that the sect exists. She asks her father not to be angry and explains that she accepted Feng as her personal disciple. Deep down, she thinks that in her previous life she was an orphan and now wants to cherish her loving parents. The old man repeats personal disciple and recalls that his precious daughter since childhood only cared about cultivation. He asks what spiritual root he possesses. Qianshui answers none. He asks about talent. Luo answers none. He then asks about cultivation level, and when she tries to respond, he interrupts and concludes that this fellow is basically useless. So how did he become a personal disciple? Qianshui explains that he bought the position with 500,000 high-grade spirit stones. The protagonist confirms it. The old man repeats that he bought the position and states that even as a flawed sect master, one should not accept a direct disciple lightly. He says he does not remember teaching her that way, and that if she lacked money, she could have asked him. Luo tries to explain, but Xia interrupts, saying Feng must be tired from standing and can sit down to rest. Bai reacts, asking if he has gone mad acting like this in front of the master, and comments that the weather is getting colder. They cannot let Ye catch a cold. Both begin flattering Feng. The old man observes the scene and asks whether Bai is still an elder of the Star Peak sect and how Xia, an old man like him, ended up in his daughter's sect. A few minutes later, he asks if it is true that a dog ate more than 2,000 nine-striped deep cleansing pills and even received a legendary 9-leaf resurrection herb. He declares that this is not a personal disciple, but the very god of wealth himself. Not only the Star Spirit sect, but the entire Star Peak sect would treat him like an ancestor. Bai tries to say they suspect Feng is something extraordinary, but the old man interrupts and tells him to be silent. He says he does not need to hear anything more. He only came to check on his daughter's sect. Since everything seems in order, he can rest assured. He has family matters to discuss with Qianshui, so everyone may leave. In the courtyard, Leng tells senior brother that he brought the water for the foot bath at the perfect temperature. The protagonist asks if he will also soak his feet. Wu Feng replies that he will do so after he finishes. Ye says that is fine and asks whether he considers him that stingy. He tells him to get another basin. They will divide the 9th level resurrection herb, half for each. Lang thanks him. On the roof, the elder and the old man watch. Bai comments that Feng is truly impressive. He is really soaking his feet in a 9-leaf resurrection herb. Xia says his heart is bleeding. The next day, the protagonist comments that it is another beautiful day. Truly worthy of its name, the 9-leaf resurrection herb revitalized his spirit and energy with just a simple foot bath. He acknowledges that the herb is remarkable. The effects of the bath may not reach even 1,000th of its full potential, but he feels his body and soul purified. He currently has 2,510 big spender points and decides to save them for now. The items of the day in the big spender shop are Abyssal Sword, Intent, Broken Remnants, 10,000 in stock. He wonders what these broken remnants of the Abyssal Sword are. Ye picks up the crystal and calls the little dog, which runs to him. The system indicates that the dog only needs to touch its forehead with these remnants. Feng presses the crystal against the animal's forehead. An intense light manifests and the dog becomes paralyzed, confused. The protagonist questions whether the system is playing a joke on him, because after using the broken remnants on the Abyssal Sword Intent, apparently nothing has changed. Ye asks what happens if he does not use big spender items in a wasteful way, and whether he can use them normally. He thinks that although it sounds absurd, after reading so many fantasy novels, it is obvious that the broken remnants of the Abyssal Sword Intent are an extremely rare and precious item. The system then notifies him that a significant amount of big spender points will be deducted. Feng questions what significant means and concludes that he cannot use it freely. If he asks others to secretly accumulate it, it might cause trouble. He picks up the dog and goes inside. In another place, the old man asks his daughter whether she has considered sending the two children to the Heavenly Dao battlefield for training. Luo asks about the Heavenly Dao battlefield and admits that she truly cannot guide them much. The old man says he is not worried about the two disciples, but fears that he might suffer some accident. He says he will send some inner disciples to participate in the Heavenly Dao battlefield with them and asks why she is so confident about Feng. Although he possesses treasures coveted even by powerful cultivators, in the end, he is still just an ordinary human. In the Heavenly Dao battlefield, weaker cultivators or monsters could easily eliminate him. The leader replies that he may not have spiritual roots, but he is not an ordinary person. With the strength he has shown, he can certainly protect himself there. The old man insists that this is impossible. Without spiritual roots, he is only a mortal, and she should not try to defend him. Qianshui states that he not only reached the peak of the 9th layer of the Qi gathering realm without spiritual roots, but the spiritual sea he developed is more than 20 times larger than hers. She herself finds it hard to believe, but must admit it. The old man declares that this is even more impossible. When she developed her own spiritual sea, she broke the record of the Star Peak sect and even alarmed the Grand Ancestor. How could an ordinary person create a spiritual sea more than 20 times larger than hers? That is pure fantasy. At that moment, an explosion echoes. Everyone turns alert. A voice resounds about the road to hell and the soul-crossing bridge, saying the sword has not yet been unsheathed and that the person should go first. Elsewhere, someone asks if they have arrived at the place. The leader confirms and asks where Lang is. Bai replies that he retreated. The sword intent there is far too terrifying. Wu Feng could not withstand it, so only the two of them remain. The old man says he will lead and that they must protect them. They ask if this is the place, and notice there are no traces of anyone else. Bai comments that perhaps Feng has done something again. The leader points out that he is right over there. Everyone looks in surprise and sees Ye playing with the dog. The old man declares that this is the first time he realizes that the one emitting those terrifying remnants of the abyssal sword intent was actually the dog itself. Jia says that a dog comprehending those incredibly difficult fragments of abyssal sword intent is unbelievable. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would never have believed it. The protagonist asks why everyone is there. The leader asks whether the dog comprehended the sword intent. Ye replies that he does not know how it happened. It is so foolish. How could it comprehend something like that? He says he had some broken remnants of abyssal sword intent and simply let it use them. Everyone repeats, broken remnants of abyssal sword intent. Feng notices that the master and the elder are staring at him with eyes full of resentment. Luo explains that the fragments of the abyssal sword represent an extremely powerful form of sword intent. Even in the Heavenly Dao battlefield, obtaining them is not easy and depends entirely on luck. Yet he truly used them in that manner. Even as a spender, there should be some limit. The protagonist asks what the Heavenly Dao battlefield is. The leader replies that since the topic has come up, it does not hurt to explain. She was planning to send him there for training. The Swantian continent is only one among countless lower realms. All dimensions of the lower realms can access the Heavenly Dao battlefield, and according to their strength, they will enter different areas. No one knows how the Heavenly Dao battlefield came into existence, but it is filled with abundant cultivation resources, opportunities, legacies, and treasures. However, besides the danger posed by other beings from lower planes, one must also be cautious of the formidable local beasts. A single mistake can result in death within the Heavenly Dao battlefield. The system notifies that a random mission has been activated. It requests that the host advance to the second layer of the Heavenly Dao battlefield and defeat 100 beasts at the peak of the Qi Gathering Realm. Success will grant a large amount of big spender points, while failure will result in the deduction of a large amount of points. The protagonist reflects that in the previous mission, the system only provided points for extravagant spending upon entering the Spirit Star sect. This time, the amount was not specified, only described as large. He wonders how he will eliminate 100 beasts in the same realm. Although he possesses spiritual power, he lacks suitable martial techniques. The old man asks how many broken remnants of the abyssal sword intent he used on that dog. He observes that the animal has transformed and that the traces of sword intent are already extremely strong. He speculates that they may have reached the peak of sword intent and could break into the Sword Heart realm at any moment. He recalls that the grand ancestor of the Star Peak sect devoted hundreds of years to cultivation and, with countless opportunities, only comprehended up to the Sword Heart realm. Even so, the Frozen Heaven Sword Heart pales in comparison to the Abyssal Sword Heart. Ye replies that it was not much, only about 10,000 broken fragments of Abyssal Sword intent, used without hesitation. Everyone stares at him in shock and repeats that he gave 10,000 broken remnants of Abyssal Sword intent to a dog, something countless cultivators would desire to obtain. Feng asks them to leave it aside for now and apologizes. He thinks he was bold to try again and is glad he did not ask them for help. Otherwise, it would have caused an even bigger problem. Luo tells them to take him away quickly, or she fears she will lose control and slap that disciple who only knows how to waste things to ruin. The old man declares that once the training ends, he will send him back as quickly as possible, because he also fears he will not be able to restrain himself. The protagonist asks where they are going. The old man explains that the Spirit Star sect was only established so that Qian Shui could cultivate her state of mind. The true sect is the Star Peak sect. Now they will go there, and when the time comes, he can accompany the senior brothers to the Heavenly Dao battlefield. It will be better to have company. Ye asks whether the Star Peak sect is strong and what realm he is in. He questions whether the sect does not even have a convenient transport beast, whether it is too poor and needs support, whether the senior brothers and sisters are nearly starving, and whether he should provide spiritual stones to them. The old man becomes irritated and tells him to shut up, stating that the sect is already prosperous enough. In another place, someone asks for 2 single rooms. Later, Feng lies down and thinks he does not know what item he will waste the next day, since it is not easy to earn big spender points. The next morning, the protagonist wakes up and says he slept very well. He checks his status bar and notices that the items to waste that day are high-quality spiritual stones. Fortunately, there are only 1,000 units, so it should not be difficult to handle. He says he already knows how to spend everything. The system should purchase martial technique jars, specifically those containing high-level human-grade techniques. No matter how many are needed, he will keep opening them until he obtains one. He reflects that, like the spiritual herb jars, the martial technique jars should have about a 90% chance of granting low-level human-grade techniques and about 80% for mid-level techniques of the same grade. The system notifies that 100 big spender points have been consumed and congratulates him for obtaining the high-level human-grade martial technique, Fire Dragon Fist. The protagonist thinks he succeeded on the first attempt after spending 100 points and considers himself very lucky. Then the system informs him that the technique requires Fire Attribute Spiritual Chi to be executed. Ye states that he does not possess Fire Attribute Spiritual Roots and asks where he will obtain Fire Attribute Spiritual Chi. The system instructs him to try converting his spiritual chi. Lights appear around his hands. Feng realizes that even without spiritual roots, he can convert the pure spiritual power within his body into different attributes of spiritual chi. Thus, he can attempt the Fire Dragon Fist. A voice tells him to get up slowly for breakfast because afterward they need to continue the journey. And the protagonist thinks that maybe later he will try the Fire Dragon Fist. Half an hour later, the old man reminds him that he had said the day before that they needed to hit the road early that day, yet they still ate breakfast slowly. Ye replies that eating slowly is good for the body and mental health. The old man stares at him and asks what he is doing, whether he is pouring heaven's blessing into a bag of profit. Feng keeps pouring the crystals. The old man, already quite irritated, says that although he does not know how many spiritual stones and treasures he possesses, he cannot waste them like that, because when one day he has nothing left, even if he awakens to reality, it will be too late, and asks whether he understands. The protagonist asks if he knows what the most painful thing in life is and says that each person has their own life, so the most painful thing for each is different. For sword fanatics who follow the path of the sword, the greatest pain is failing to comprehend the true essence of the sword before losing their life. For alchemists who follow the path of pills, it is failing to refine an unparalleled elixir worthy of leaving a legacy before death. For formation masters who follow the path of formations, it is failing to create the supreme formation they envisioned before dying. As for him, the most painful thing is to die while still having money. The old man calls him a spendthrift brat and says he wants to see how long he can keep throwing things away. They arrive at the Star Peak sect and Ye thinks he has finally finished playing around because his hands are almost numb. He comments that the so-called Spirit Star sect is nothing more than a small hill and cannot compare. The old man calls Steward Song and says that the child is his personal disciple, explaining that in a few days, the other senior disciples will go to the Heavenly Tao battlefield. So Feng must behave well these days because they will depart in 3 days. The protagonist tells Steward Song that he will trouble him for a few days, and the steward replies that there is no need for formalities. Ye notices something and asks what is happening there. Song explains that today is the day when outer and inner disciples compete against each other, and that he can go join the fun. The system then notifies that a random task has been issued. The host must become the champion and defeat 100 opponents of the same realm. Success will earn 500 big spender points, and failure will deduct 500 points. Feng does not hear anything the master is saying, fixates on the 500 points, and thinks that since he is short on big spender points, he will give it a try. In the arena, the protagonist enters and people look at him, asking who he is. Observing that he is not even wearing the Star Peak sect robe and yet has entered the arena, questioning whether he is preparing to challenge someone, perhaps someone from another sect coming to provoke. Ye introduces himself, saying he is at the peak of the 9th layer of the Chi gathering realm, that he is the personal disciple of the esteemed Luo, and that today he will participate in the challenge there, asking the senior brothers and sisters for guidance. Everyone is surprised and asks if he is the personal disciple of the Holy Maiden, commenting that they heard she is establishing her own sect and wondering how he managed to attract her attention, saying that if they could become the esteemed disciples of the Holy Maiden, even if they had to shorten their own lives by decades, they would be willing. At that moment, someone steps forward and says he will accept the challenge. It is Meng Yang. People comment that he joined the sect less than 3 years ago, yet his cultivation has already reached the peak of the 9th layer of the Chi gathering realm, and that the mid-level Earth-grade cultivation technique he practices surpasses low-level Earth-grade martial techniques. So, it seems a great spectacle is about to begin, because everyone is curious about the strength of Senior Luo's great disciple. The protagonist observes that Meng seems quite well known in the sect, and Meng replies that it's not bad to have taken less than 3 years to reach the peak of the 9th layer of the Chi gathering realm, asking how long Ye took. Ye answers that it took him about 10 minutes to reach the peak of the 9th layer of the Spirit Sea realm, a little over 20 minutes to go from the peak of the 9th layer of the Spirit Sea realm to the peak of the 9th layer of the Chi gathering realm. but that in fact it was about 5 minutes to reach the peak of Qi gathering. Meng asks what kind of nonsense that is. Silence falls over the place. People say it is ridiculous, that this guy must be dreaming, because Yang took 3 years and he says he took 30 minutes, when they themselves take 30 minutes just to find a restroom when they have a stomachache. They comment that Feng's boasting is excessive, that he is arrogant and conceited, and question why the Holy Maiden would choose him as her personal disciple. The protagonist says they don't believe him even when he tells the truth. Meng charges forward using the Misty Water Steps, a mid-tier Earth-grade movement technique, declaring that there has been enough nonsense. Ye clenches his fists and unleashes the Fire Dragon Fist, releasing an intense blaze of power. Song notices the situation and says this is bad, that he can't dodge and must use the wave-splitting sword to defend himself. The attacks continue to be launched, flames engulf the area, and an explosion erupts. Some people raise barriers to try to protect themselves as the power spreads, while others are still struck and say it's impossible, that they cannot withstand such a terrifying spiritual impact. The fire dragon still hasn't disappeared. Someone runs in desperation, it's Meng, saying that not even the wave-splitting sword could block the attack and that they are in trouble now. The protagonist continues using the Fire Dragon Fist and thinks this is exactly what he wanted to test. Song has no alternatives left and, almost in tears, asks where that monster came from and declares that he surrenders. Excited, Ye asks who's next, says he wants to fight 100 of them and wonders if this is what sparring feels like. Saying it's far too thrilling, the crowd panics and tells him to wait, shouting for him to stop damaging the sect's property. Feng declares that anyone who challenges him in the arena will be struck down by him personally and thinks that relying only on luxury does not allow one to experience the true thrill of battle, because that is what an exciting fantasy world is all about. One person proposes that all disciples at the peak of Qi gathering attack together while the others clear the area, saying they will teach that kid a lesson. Someone comments that he has gone mad since Ye is about to face 200 people, and it's no wonder he was chosen as the Soul Maiden's personal disciple, because fighting more than 200 opponents of the same level is terrifying. If he wins, his future growth will surely secure a place on the Latent Dragons ranking. Victory will make him famous, but defeat will bring disgrace to the entire sect. The leader orders all disciples to follow instructions, release their spiritual power, and form a spiritual barrier. The barrier is created, and the protagonist asks if this is an unexpected way to play, reflecting that although he has abundant spiritual power, breaking the opponent's barrier using only a high-tier Earth-grade martial technique seems challenging. 4,410 points are counted, and the system draws a superior Earth-grade martial technique. The system notifies that after consuming 700 big spender points, it congratulates the host for obtaining the superior Earth-grade martial technique, 9-petaled Radiant Thunder Lotus. Ye tells it to continue the draw and asks for another technique. New notifications appear stating that after consuming 900 big spender points, he obtained the superior Earth-grade martial technique, Water Dragon's Chant, and after consuming 700 big spender points, he obtained the superior Earth-grade martial technique, Gale Sandstorm. An intense energy begins circulating around the area. Feng declares that this should be enough. The protagonist executes the 9-petaled Radiant Thunder Lotus together with the Water Dragon's Chant. One disciple asks about the Thunder spiritual power and whether he also possesses a Water spiritual root, questioning what kind of martial technique that is and where that monster came from, saying he has 3 types of spiritual roots and that even the residual energy he emits is hard to endure. Ya advances and warns them they had better be ready for that move. A massive impact occurs. People say that even with the barrier, they can't hold on any longer because their spiritual energy is running out. Song also comments that his own spiritual energy is nearly depleted. Feng, wrapped in an absurd aura, asks if it's still not over. The crowd realizes new attacks are coming. Several disciples are blasted away and scream that they surrender. The steward reflects that he thought the young lady's personal disciple was merely arrogant and tried to humiliate him a little, but didn't expect him to have so much spiritual power nor to have comprehended 3 high-tier Earth-grade martial techniques, concluding that he is terrifying and will certainly rank among the top 10 of the latent dragons in the future. The protagonist declares that he is young and unrestrained, living to the fullest, and asks who else dares to face him. Exhausted, the crowd comments that he still has energy left and that this time he truly made a name for himself as a monstrous talent. In the sect's main hall, Zhao asks if they know why the sect master summoned them there. Du replies that he doesn't know, since the master rushed back that day after having left a few days earlier. Chen comments that it may be related to the Celestial Dao battlefield. The old man says he gathered the 5 of them to inform them that they will soon have a new junior disciple, who for now is only at the peak of the chi-gathering realm, and that they will need to take good care of him. They comment that there will be another junior disciple, and one of them says she will finally no longer be the youngest. Tian states that speaking of the Star Peak sect, it is one of the leading sects on the Xuantian continent. Xing agrees and says that to become a core disciple, one must stand out in every aspect, such as talent, comprehension, and spiritual roots. Zhao asks whether the sect master can say what exceptional qualities this junior disciple possesses, and the master replies that he has a lot of money, is extremely wealthy, a true spendthrift and big spender. Zhao comments that even the personal wealth of lone experts cannot compare to a fraction of the sect's resources. Xing questions whether that can be considered exceptional. Du says this junior disciple must have truly extraordinary qualities, and Chen asks if the master is joking. The master says they do not understand, but after spending time with him, they will naturally comprehend. In a few days, when he finishes his experience at the Celestial Dao battlefield, they will follow him to the Star Spirit sect founded by the Holy Maiden. He adds that they should not blame him for not remembering, and that when they have free time, they should pay more attention to him, because even what he trims from his own fingernails might be useful to them. He thinks this is extremely clever, because by following Feng, the sect will not only cultivate 5 unparalleled experts, but also free up more resources to train other disciples. The master also comments that they are not even as good as a dog, and that if any of them had obtained the abyssal sword intent back then, they would have soared. They look at one another and fall silent. The master says certain things can only be understood through real experience, and that he will first introduce them to the junior disciple, reminding them again that he is the god of wealth, and that in future interactions they must keep their eyes wide open. They talk about 4 elemental roots, about how terrifying Ye is, how he has mastered 3 high-tier Earth-grade martial techniques, and how frightening Brother Feng's comprehension is. 1 against 200, Brother Feng seems like divine punishment. Xing says he cannot shake the feeling that they have lost something important. Zhao asks if he is sure this junior brother has nothing exceptional besides being rich and extravagant. The master replies that he knows nothing more, only that he is rich and extravagant, and that instead of asking him, they should ask the inner disciples. They all wonder whether that is still the sect master, since he does not even know the real situation of the junior brother, and yet is considering granting him the status of core disciple. Elsewhere, the scene is completely destroyed. Du remarks that today was supposed to be the day of confrontation between inner and outer disciples. Xing observes that the situation ended up turning into a battle among themselves this month. The master asks what is going on there. Song replies that he became famous in a single battle, an overwhelming presence, because Ye did everything alone and fought against more than 200 disciples of the same realm, emerging victorious. Everyone is shocked upon hearing this and asks if he truly won in a respectable manner. Silence falls over the group, and the master asks them to report the details. 2 minutes later, he recalls what the sect leader said, that the spiritual sea opened within Feng's body is more than 20 times larger than his own, and thinks that in that case, Ye alone equals 400 cultivators of the same realm. He then realizes he has not checked Feng's spiritual sea in recent days, and that he has been negligent. Chen questions whether a single person's spiritual power can really reach such a terrifying level. Du once again mentions the 4 elemental roots, and the comprehension of 3 high-tier Earth-grade martial techniques. Tian asks if he is still provoking and whether he finds that amusing. Zhao wants to know where the junior brother is. The steward replies that he has already returned to the residence at the inner gate of the main peak, courtyard 111. Main peak, inner gate, courtyard 111. They move quickly. Zhao says they will meet the junior brother first. Song comments to the sect master that moments earlier Chen called Feng junior brother, and asks whether he plans to make him the 6th core disciple of the sect. The master replies that he must not inform the 3 grand elders about Ye's situation, because he is his daughter's personal disciple and no one can take him away. The steward says that even if he does not inform the 3 grand elders, the news has already spread. And not only the 3 grand elders know, but the other 4 grand elders are aware as well. The master concludes that this may become a problem and says he will see what he himself decides to do. Elsewhere, the protagonist is lying down and remarks that in the audience, people no longer pass by in their former colors. While on stage, someone sings a heartbreaking farewell song until a group quickly approaches. Ye asks who they are and what they are doing there. Everyone begins introducing themselves. Feng asks whether he is not the master's personal disciple, whether he went out for a short time and now shows up with 5 more senior brothers and sisters. Zhao says he misunderstood and that he will explain calmly. After some time, still in the same place, the protagonist states that having 2 identities changes nothing, since he is both the master's personal disciple and the sixth core disciple of Star Peak sect. He wonders whether, as the junior brother and since it is their first meeting, he can offer some gifts to his senior brothers and sisters. He thinks that everyone there is a genius comparable to the greatest talents of the sect, and that, for this first meeting, he would like to give each of them 100,000 high-grade spirit stones as a small token of goodwill. The system notifies that the amount is within the permitted spending range, and yet reflects that although it was only a sudden idea to propose that amount while spending points, it apparently works. Xing comments that even though the junior brother has unparalleled talent, after learning his identities, she still feels a little nervous, but also says he is truly cute and that, as the second senior sister, she will protect him in the future. Du says she has finally stopped being the youngest and now has a junior brother to tease. Feng says that since it is their first meeting, this is only a small gesture of gratitude. The protagonist hands the gifts to each of them. Zhao thinks about infusing spiritual power into the ring to check, and asks whether it really contains 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. Everyone freezes, thinking that as senior brothers and sisters, they did not give any gift to the junior brother and instead accepted an enormous sum of 100,000 high-grade spirit stones at their very first meeting. They immediately recall the master's words that he was extremely rich. The system congratulates him on the successful expenditure, granting 200 spending points and 100 enlightenment pills. Enlightenment pill, no rank. Any creature that swallows it can immediately enter a state of enlightenment for 20 minutes, cannot be used to obtain big spender points. Ye comments that these enlightenment pills do not seem meant for squandering. Feng tosses one pill to each of them and they ask what it is. The protagonist replies that it is the enlightenment pill. They grow curious and ask whether, upon swallowing it, they can truly enter a state of enlightenment instantly. Yi confirms that upon consuming it, they immediately enter that state for 20 minutes, and that they should take the opportunity to experience it. Zhao swallows the pill thinking the junior brother would have no reason to harm them. Everyone ingests it and light begins radiating around them. The master asks what is happening and Feng gestures for silence. The master questions why the senior brothers and sisters suddenly began cultivating, and the protagonist explains that he gave them 5 enlightenment pills, that they are busy cultivating, and that such an opportunity should not be disturbed. The sect master asks whether he still has pills and whether he can give him some as well. Ye replies that he will give him 5 since he still needs to go back to feed his dog. The master, indignant, asks whether these pills truly place someone immediately into a state of enlightenment and whether he intends to give them to a dog. Feng thinks he knows how formidable the pill is, and that although it does not generate big spender points, the habit of spending might bring special rewards again. The master reflects that he cannot bear the idea of watching him feed a dog with enlightenment pills. He asks how many he has and declares that he will buy them all on behalf of the sect. After all, he is also part of the sect and should understand. The protagonist replies that, put that way, he truly understands, but thinks that if he refused and did not let the dog eat until it was satisfied, it would be more painful than the final blow itself. The master then says that the 5 grand elders want to see him, perhaps to accept him as a disciple or discuss something similar, and that in any case he needs to be cautious when the time comes. Back on the mountain, inside the seclusion cave, a voice announces that they have arrived. Lights illuminate the figures present. They are the 5 grand elders, and beside them stands the new personal disciple the master has just accepted. Luo Tianxing states that he fought alone against more than 200 disciples of the same realm, possesses 4 spiritual roots, and has comprehended 3 high-level earth-rank martial techniques, crushing opponents at the same level, and that such a genius must be fully nurtured. The 5 grand elders present are Jiang Haoyu, Cao Minfeng, Cheng Xingfei, and Chu Yunxuan. The protagonist is surprised to see them gathered together. Jiang observes that he is at the peak of the 9th layer of the Qi gathering realm, and Chu remarks that within him there is an astonishingly vast spiritual sea. Tianxing is stunned for a moment until the Grand Elders notice something strange and ask why he has no spiritual roots. Everyone is shocked, and Chu questions how that is possible. Tianxing asks how, without spiritual roots, he can perceive the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Xingfei wants to know how he cultivated a spiritual sea under such conditions. Ye replies that he does not know how to explain it, only that sometimes, when he thinks about it, he feels the surrounding spiritual energy flowing into his body, and that even without spiritual roots, for some reason, the spiritual energy within him can be converted into different elemental energies. The elders, perplexed, ask what absurd phenomenon that is. Feng thinks that, considering the strength and status of those 5 grand elders, as a core disciple, it would not be inappropriate to give each of them 1 million high-grade spirit stones. The system then notifies that the amount is too small, does not fall within the waist range, and that his vision is limited. The protagonist then thinks of 10 million high-grade spirit stones, and new notifications appear informing him that this amount falls within the big spending range. Ye realizes that it is quite a high value and concludes that those 5 Grand Elders are truly extraordinary. He comments that he came in a hurry and did not prepare much, hoping they will not disdain those 10 million high-grade spirit stones. The elders look confused, accept the gift, and think that he really is only a disciple at the peak of the 9th layer of the Chi-gathering realm, wondering what kind of wealth that boy possesses. The sect master asks whether they have not been stuck at a bottleneck for decades, and says that there are 5 enlightenment pills there, that they need not ask anything, just swallow them, because they will immediately enter a state of enlightenment. The Grand Elders are surprised and again ask what kind of wealth he has. Feng comments that he has been tricked, and the sect master thinks that he had told him to sell the enlightenment pills. After the Grand Elders swallow the pills, they enter a state of enlightenment. The sect master pulls the disciple back and tells him not to disturb the elders. Tianxing opens his eyes and says he only needs a little more. The others agree, saying just a little more. Tianxing asks how many enlightenment pills the two of them still have. The sect master replies that he is not sure, but should still have some, although he is planning to take them back to feed the dog. The protagonist asks him not to bring up that matter again. The Grand Elders are shocked and ask about feeding a dog with that. Tianxing steps forward and says that the ancestral rules state that one must not bully the weak. The enlightenment pills belong to him and he can do as he pleases with them, but even so he should not give them to the dog. Ye replies that he still has 90 enlightenment pills left, that it would indeed be a waste to give them all to the dog, and suggests keeping 40 for himself. They ask whether this should be negotiated. Tianxing questions whether, as sect master, he should not control the disciples' extravagance. The master replies that the boy uses 9-leaf resurrection herb to soak his feet, even uses broken abyssal sword and tent fragments on the dog, that those things belong to him, that he is determined to be extravagant, and asks what they can do about it. The Grand Elders are extremely shocked, while Feng remains confused. Tianxing suggests discussing the matter and comments that the enlightenment pills are quite precious, that he should keep them for himself instead of giving them to the dog. The protagonist begins to wonder whether this is truly a fantasy world and why the people of the sect are all so benevolent. He recalls that in his previous life and in the novels he read, when someone possessed even a single treasure, they were immediately eyed with greed by others. He remembers that his master, even without giving him much guidance, spent a great deal of money to buy profound cleansing pills, and that old bai is always talking about lying down and laughing. Within Star Peak sect, the senior brothers and sisters he defeated still take pride in themselves, and now here stand the master and the 5 Grand Elders all treating him in that manner. Ye thinks that being in a sect like that is not bad at all since there are no betrayals or conspiracies, and states that, in that case, he will comfortably remain an extravagant fellow within the sect. He declares that there are 70 enlightenment pills there and voluntarily offers them to the sect, but asks the 5 elders not to try to negotiate the remainder with him. He reflects that he wants to be a prodigal with peace of mind, because the stronger the sect is, the safer it will be, and offering a few things is not a bad idea. Tianxing says that the sect is fortunate to have a disciple like him, and asks whether Wu Ming understands how much he has already contributed, stating that as long as he does not violate the ancestral rules, no one has the right to punish him. The sect master replies that he understands and thanks him for the reminder, thinking that Feng is his chosen god of wealth and that even without all this, he would not treat him poorly. Suddenly, the pressure in the surroundings increases. Chu identifies it as a golden silkworm star gem. The protagonist says it fell out accidentally and that it is just a piece of broken rock, but thinks that, as a big spender and wealthy person, if he does not have something that arouses envy, he will be lowering his own value. The sect master confirms that he truly possesses a golden silkworm star gem. Chu asks about that fragment and whether he would be willing to sell it, explaining that he is an alchemist. Ye replies that no, he does not have much of that material and was thinking of using it in the future to build a latrine. Everyone is shocked at the thought of a latrine made from golden silkworm star gems and remains frozen. Chu asks if he knows how important that gem is to an alchemist, and Feng replies that he does not, but that when he gathers enough to build the latrine, the sight will be dazzling. The sect master questions what he means by gathering enough, and explains that those gems are extremely rare spiritual ores capable of absorbing lightning tribulations, asking whether he plans to hide in the latrine during future tribulations. Chu insists on the matter of gathering enough and asks whether that means he can obtain more golden silkworm star gems in the future. The protagonist replies that of course, and that if anything is left over after building the latrine, he will keep a little for himself. Chu states that using the gem to build a latrine is actually an excellent idea. Tianxing asks whether he has gone mad, reminding him that it is a golden silkworm star gem and that he is encouraging extravagance. The Grand Elders begin discussing among themselves. Chu asks if they are fools and argues that when there are enough gems, they can hide in the latrine to withstand lightning tribulations. He questions how many tribulations a single gem can absorb, how many would be needed for an entire latrine, and states that simply squatting in a pit would be enough to successfully overcome the tribulation. The sect master asks whether they can really do that and comments that with a golden latrine capable of resisting lightning tribulation, no one would need life-saving treasures. Ye feels a chill down his spine and wonders what they are planning. 10 minutes later, Tianxing declares that this time, the celestial Dao battlefield is full of dangers, and that he must gather all disciples in the Qi-gathering realm to ensure the safety of Feng, the god of wealth. The protagonist states that he believes he can enter the battlefield alone, and that with his current strength he can take care of himself. The sect master replies that the battlefield is not child's play, and that it is better to follow the Grand Elder's arrangements. Tianxing stares at him intently. Ye argues that if there are too many people, his training will lose its meaning. Tianxing advises him to be extremely cautious and not to trust anyone easily. Feng thinks that although more people may seem to bring safety in practice, it could be more dangerous if they encounter a threat they cannot handle. He also realizes that he still does not know how the guardian team of the Big Spender system operates. After bidding farewell to the Grand Elders, Ye returns to the residence at the main peak, and Feng asks whether they have not left yet. Zhao asks whether he still has more of those enlightenment pills he handed out earlier. Du comments that with just one pill, she was able to instantly enter a state of enlightenment. Tian, somewhat embarrassed, asks whether he could give her a few more. The protagonist replies that there are not many left, since he has already given several to the Grand Elders. Xing asks if he can give her a few more, and Ye replies that he cannot, that the remaining 20 enlightenment pills are reserved for his dog. Even the Grand Elder asked for some, but he refused, because that is his bottom line. They fall silent for a moment. Xing admits they were rude. Zhao says that obtaining a single enlightenment pill is already great luck. Fate is fickle and cannot be forced. Feng reminds them that he handed 70 over to the sect and questions that, as core disciples prioritized by the sect, if he does not receive enlightenment pills, then who else will? They then move quickly. Zhao states that he will ask for a pill first, and that if in the future he needs help with anything, they will be ready to serve him. Everyone disappears, and the protagonist comments that they could at least have fixed the roof before leaving. He reflects that the days of being a prodigal god of wealth are monotonous, tasteless, and luxurious, and the system asks where he got the red wine from. Ye tells the system to wait and questions why, earlier, when he gave each of the 5 Grand Elders 10 million high-grade spirit stones, there were no rewards. The system responds that the 5 Grand Elders did not genuinely accept them with the intention of keeping them, and that the Big Spenders event is still ongoing and has not ended. Feng gets irritated and questions whether they have grown old and senile, failing to enjoy things while they can. Tianxing approaches and says he hopes he is not disturbing his rest. The protagonist replies that not at all and says he can use the spirit stones as he pleases, since he has plenty, asking if he did not come to return them. Tianxing says that for now, the Star Peak sect does not need the disciples' spirit stones. Ye states that although he does not know the sect's reserves, even if he consumed all the spirit stones of the entire sect, they still would not come close to his spare change, and that if the sect needs anything, they only have to ask, because he will give whatever is necessary. Tianxing asks if he possesses spirit crystals, and Feng asks about these crystals. Tianxing explains that they are the main source of energy to maintain the sect's protective formation, but recently the power has been low. He thinks that although he was only testing his wealth, if he could truly obtain some spirit crystals, it would resolve the urgent need. The Star Peak sect is one of the largest sects on the Xuantian continent, but it is vast, and over thousands of years, several enemies have grown with equivalent strength. In recent centuries, the amount of spirit crystals obtained from the celestial Dao battlefield has decreased. The protagonist thinks that the people of the sect are like family to him and wonders whether it would be excessive to give 10 billion high-grade spirit crystals to his family. The system questions whether he has no shame and confirms whether it is really 10 billion, notifying him that the sect would not be able to burn through that even in hundreds of years and that at most he could consider 1 billion. Ye tells the system to watch closely because the people of the sect are his dear relatives, brothers and sisters, and they need a raise. The system says absolutely not. Feng wonders whether the system is actually bargaining and concludes that perhaps it is not so rigid and that he might negotiate more in the future. He then settles on 100 million high-grade spirit crystals, and the system notifies that 100 million have been issued. Tianxing thinks that spirit crystals are exclusive to the celestial Dao battlefield, and that he probably does not have any to spare, and that there is no need to exaggerate. The protagonist asks him to wait and declares that there are 100 million high-grade spirit crystals. Tianxing is shocked upon hearing the number and says he must be having auditory hallucinations in his old age, but Ye replies that he is not hallucinating. Tianxing thinks that even if they sold everything the Star Peak sect possesses, they would not be able to obtain so many high-grade spirit crystals. Feng extends his hand and delivers the crystals, which pile up covering mountains and plains, leaving Tianxing completely stunned. The system congratulates the host on a successful spending spree, granting 200 big spender points, and then another notification informs him of 300 more big spender points, in addition to an enhanced 9-star sword formation secret manual. Tianxing wonders what this enhanced secret manual is and questions whether he is truly willing to hand over so many high-grade spirit crystals to the sect. The protagonist thinks that faced with such immense wealth, no one can resist, and replies that of course he is willing, but suggests that the sect keep the protective formation running continuously, and that when the crystals run out, they only need to inform him. Tianxing states that this is unacceptable, as high-grade spirit crystals are extremely precious, and if the sect is not facing a crisis, they cannot be so wasteful. Ye replies that it is nothing serious, just a small amount, that 100 million is only a drizzle and that he can obtain another 100 million now and more in the future, so they should use them without concern. Tianxing asks if he truly possesses that much, and Feng confirms that he does, that he has plenty, and that if the sect runs out, they only need to look for him. Tianxing declares that from that day on, the 9-star sword formation of the Star Peak sect will remain permanently active. The protagonist asks whether the sect's protective formation is precisely the 9-star sword formation, and comments that he has a set of formations there and can take a look. Tianxing observes and concludes that it is indeed the sect's 9-star sword formation. After the improvements, although the consumption is 10 times greater, the power also increases tenfold. Ye notices something and tells him not to ask, as it would be a waste of time. Tianxing replies that he will not ask. He then declares that from that moment on, he is an honorary elder of the Star Peak sect. The protagonist questions the title of honorary elder, and Tianxing confirms that yes, he will stand on equal footing with the 5 grand elders, and that even that boy will have to address him as elder. Ye asks them to stop joking, says he has no interest in the position of elder, that he only wants to quietly enjoy his luxurious life without getting involved in too many matters, that he is still a personal disciple of his master, and asks how he could face her if he became an elder. He thinks that great power brings great responsibility. Tianxing states that it would be unfair if the sect treated him otherwise, and suggests keeping the identity secret known only to Wu Ming and the 5 grand elders, ensuring that it will not affect his normal life. Feng agrees, but makes it clear that aside from providing resources, he will not get involved in anything else. Tianxing accepts the condition. The sect master enters the hall and asks whether the disciple wishes to visit the demonic beast peak, where the sect keeps its beasts. Wu Ming is surprised to see that the Grand Elder is also present. Tianxing orders him to call him Elder, for from that moment on, Feng is an honorary elder of the Star Peak sect, with status equal to theirs, and that when encountering an elder he must show due respect. The sect master says he understands and asks how he became an honorary elder. Tianxing replies that he contributed greatly to the sect and that even so, being only an honorary elder still seems too little given what he has done. The sect master asks how much he paid for this position. The protagonist asks them not to call him elder as it sounds strange, and says that as for the amount, it was only 100 million high-grade spirit crystals and the enhanced 9-star sword formation manual. Wu Ming repeats in shock, asking if it was truly 100 million high-grade spirit crystals and an enhanced 9-star sword formation, and comments that it really seems unfair for him to be only an honorary elder. Ye recalls that the master mentioned the demonic beast peak and asks if they will go take a look. Later, behind the mountain, in the cultivation cave, Jiang asks whether Tianxing returned the spirit stones to Feng. Chu comments that they cannot afford to lose someone like him. Tianxing shakes his head, and everyone is shocked to learn that he did not return them. They ask if he has gone mad, and how he could not return them, saying that they truly do not lack 1 million high-grade spirit stones. Tianxing replies that not only did he not return them, but he also obtained some additional benefits from him. He did not want to accept, but he offered far more. Everyone waits for the explanation. Chu asks him to say how much it was, and Tianxing answers that they are not spirit stones, but 100 million high-grade spirit crystals. Chung asks about 100 million high-grade spirit crystals, saying that he keeps them casually inside a spatial ring. Chu states that with 100 million high-grade spirit crystals, the sect's prosperity will be guaranteed for thousands of years. Minfeng tells him to quickly place them on the ground so as not to damage the spatial ring. Tianqing replies that no, from that day on, he will permanently activate the sect's protective formation at all times. They are confused. Jiang asks if he has gone insane. Minfeng questions whether some other sect might be plotting against the Star Peak sect. Tianqing says they're thinking too small, that it is only 100 million and everything is fine. If it runs out, they can get more. Chung comments that this fellow has been there for only 1 day and already makes them feel like beggars. Tianqing says that, by the way, he also handed over an enhanced version of the 9-star sword formation, which consumes 10 times more energy but whose power has also increased tenfold. Even a 9th-layer expert of the Transcendent Tribulation realm would be crippled if not finished off. Meanwhile, at the depths of the demonic beast peak, Tianqing explains that those sealed caves contain demonic beasts of different levels and quantities. The higher one climbs, the stronger they become. The protagonist asks why seal those beasts instead of eliminating them. Tianqing replies that they serve as trials of life and final tests. Disciples who wish to leave the sect must challenge the sealed beasts, for if they cannot defeat them there, they will not survive in the outside world. Within the sect, there is still a chance. Outside, there will be no such opportunity. Yi comments that in a few days he intends to go to the Celestial Dao battlefield and asks whether he can test his skills there first. Tianqing says those beasts are meant for senior disciples to gain experience, and thinks that, considering his strength, even if there were 200 beasts of the same level, he would defeat them with ease. So it would by no means be appropriate to leave him there. Feng asks about the spiritual fusion realm, and Tianqing pretends not to hear, saying that the sunlight is very beautiful today. The protagonist thinks that the Grand Master is not paying attention to him and notices that he only has 2,810 points left, concluding that he needs to make a big move. The next day, Ye looks at the system and wonders about the Purple Thunder Mad Corpse Lion, what level that demonic beast is, and how he should deal with it. He asks how they handle demonic beast corpses. Zhao explains that one can refine the demonic beast's essence plasma from the corpse using spiritual power, but that this essence is mainly useful for body cultivation. Feng asks what body cultivation is. Zhao replies that it is using cultivation methods to temper the body, absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and continuously transforming the body. Body cultivators possess terrifying combat power, and demonic beast essence plasma is the best auxiliary resource for them. The protagonist says he understands and asks about simply roasting and eating the demonic beast directly. The senior brother comments that the more powerful the corpse, the harder it is to refine its essence plasma. In the case of very strong beasts, if they do not refine the essence and merely roast and eat it, that would be quite extravagant. Ye asks whether there are body cultivators in the sect, and the senior brother tells him to wait and listen. The Grand Elder is a powerful transcendental body cultivator, and his identity as a weaponsmith is linked to that. There are rumors that when he was 10 years old, but Zhao interrupts and asks whether he happens to possess the corpse of an extremely high-level demonic beast and plans to roast it directly. At the training ground, people ask if he is going to fight again that day and say he is truly motivated. A boy lying on the ground asks them not to look at him, stating that he chooses to surrender. Feng jumps down from the roof and says there will be no fight today and that everyone can help him with that meat, as he is paying for a barbecue for all. Upon seeing the crystal shining, they move quickly and comment that they just repaired the arena. When the smoke dissipates, they are surprised by the size of the beast and are grateful that it is only a corpse. The protagonist asks for help cutting it, as he cannot handle it alone, and everyone agrees to help. One of them says the beast's scales are extremely tough. His sword broke. He found weak points, but even a chi-imbued sword shattered, and it seems they will not be able to eat anything. Ye asks if anyone can lend a powerful blade or tool, otherwise he will not be able to process it. The system notifies that it will temporarily lend 100 daggers to the host and that he must use them. Feng questions whether they are just handfuls of scrap and says not to use that junk, but then hands the daggers to them. They take them and ask whether they really work, since they are very dark. Upon testing them, they realize the daggers are extremely powerful. The demonic beast's scales become like paper before them, and the flesh and skin are cut with frightening ease. One of them ends up cutting his own finger, and the protagonist thinks that who would have thought those seemingly poor daggers would be so effective. The system notifies that the daggers are a temporary loan and must be returned afterward. Otherwise, a significant amount of big spender points will be deducted. Ye thinks that deducting big spender points is a petty move and concludes that he will have to return them all later. They cut up the demonic beast and begin roasting it. Feng observes that it looks like a classic old-style campfire feast. Some people comment that they heard barbecue tastes even better when paired with pancakes. 10 miles east of the Star Peak sect, Kai says he has arrived and asks what is going on, whether the sect is in danger, questioning if there are other forces besides him, since that should be impossible, as there should only be him. Kai advances quickly and comments that it is perfect. It has been a long time since he tested the power of the 9-star sword formation, and he wants to see how many strikes from that formation's force he can withstand. A huge boom echoes. Kai tries to destroy the barrier but fails, and thinks that the power of the Star Peak sect's protective formation has increased greatly, wondering who could have enhanced it to such an extent. The sect master asks if he has gone mad and whether he cannot perceive the strength of the protective formation. Kai replies that he came to see him, and that as soon as he entered the sect, he was almost slaughtered by the 9-star sword formation. Vu Ming tells him to stop talking nonsense and asks what the problem is. Kai says that this time he was lucky in the Celestial Dao battlefield and obtained 80 complete spiritual crystals, all high quality. The sect master asks if that is all and says he can leave then. Kai questions that reaction, asking whether he should not be requesting a dozen or more, and suspects that the sect activated the protective formation because a formidable enemy is approaching on purpose, wanting to know who raised the formation to such a terrifying level. Vu Ming replies that no, they simply had a surplus of spiritual crystals recently and are using part of the stock. He should have felt the power of the protective formation, and although it consumes 10 times more energy, the sect can afford it. He asks whether Kai is trying to show off and tells him to say how many spiritual crystals his own sect possesses now. He says not many, only 100 million, enough to last a few months. He seems to have just returned from the Celestial Dao battlefield, so aside from the spiritual crystals, he asks if there is any other matter. Kai comments that it has been a long time since they drank together and thought they could chat over some drinks, reflecting that his old friend never lies about important matters, so it must be true. A few minutes later in the inner area of the Star Peak sect, Kai asks what that smell is and comments that it is extremely fragrant, identifying it as Purple Thunder Mad Lion. There are bones on the ground, and in the training field people are eating. Kai confirms that it is indeed so, and Wu Ming thinks that the aura matches a Purple Thunder Mad Lion that definitely survived the 9 thunder tribulations of the Celestial Dao and could have ascended to the higher realms at any time, being a terrifying demon. Kai asks them to wait a moment and questions what the disciples are doing. The sect master replies that they seem to be eating grilled meat. Kai, indignant, asks whether they are grilling the flesh of such a terrifying demon and whether the Star Peak sect has really become so rich. Suddenly, Kai notices something and asks what those weapons are. They watch as the disciples cut the meat rapidly. Kai asks what kind of divine weapon that is and comments that his friend's sect is far too strange for him. Vu Ming states that the more powerful the demon, the more precious the blood essence extracted from it. If the 5 Grand Elders find out, it is better to notify them quickly, as he is being extravagant again. The corpse of a Purple Thunder Mad Lion that endured the 9 celestial tribulations is being roasted by Feng on skewers for the disciples. If they do not come soon, nothing will be left. Kai asks who this Feng is and why they need to call the 5 Grand Elders, questioning whether he himself cannot handle it. The sect master replies by asking whether he thinks he would not like to resolve it, explaining that this Feng is the 6th core disciple of the sect, who donated 100 million high-quality spiritual crystals and an enhanced version of the 9-star sword formation secret manual, and has now been promoted to honorary elder. Even he must address him as elder, so how could he interfere? Behind the mountain, one of the Grand Elders senses something wrong and rushes off quickly. The others follow immediately. Chu, eyes blazing, asks whether he has any idea how valuable the corpse of a beast that endured 9 celestial tribulations is to him, while they try to hold him back and tell him to calm down. Tianxing says that if the beast endured the 9 celestial tribulations, there is no need for further explanation. The corpse of a great demon at that level is probably even more valuable than an enlightenment pill for body cultivators. Chu comments that now, within the sect, there truly is a great demon's corpse, but it has already been half devoured by several thousand inner and outer disciples. Tianxing says they must hurry and stop them. Chu states that this is definitely that boy's doing again, that he wants to distribute the great demon's corpse for thousands of disciples to roast and eat, and asks what they should do. Tianxing replies that after all, he has brought many benefits to the sect, so they cannot simply snatch the great demon's corpse by force, since it belongs to Ye Feng. Jiang agrees and says that even roasted, it will still bring enormous benefits to thousands of inner and outer disciples. Tianxing sighs, saying the elder is in trouble and suggests that perhaps they should go taste some as well. Eating something is better than eating nothing, and after all, they have never tried a demon of that level before. A few minutes later on the training field, the sect master and Kai are also eating the beast's meat, while the disciples cheer around them. The Grand Elders watch from a distance. Tianxing asks what they are doing now. Someone rings a bell and Kai announces that he has won. People celebrate and throw bones into the air until the sect master notices something in the sky. The Grand Elders are watching. Tianxing asks whether Feng is really eating barbecue, and Chu questions why they were not invited to join. The protagonist replies that there is no problem at all and that, since the Grand Elders are interested, they can join them. Kai comments that he did not expect him to be so low-key within the sect, and the sect master tells him to shut up. An hour later, Chu says he will take the skeleton, and Ye thanks him. Wuming introduces his old friend Kai, explaining that he is a fourth-layer body cultivator who has transcended the tribulation realm. Feng remembers that the Grand Elder ordered the master to address him as elder, and then greets Kai as senior. Kai says there is no need to be so formal. The protagonist explains that, as his master's friend, he is naturally a senior to this junior. Kai asks why Wuming calls him elder while he calls him master. Wuming replies that he is the personal disciple of his daughter, so in a way he himself is his master. In any case, it is complicated to explain. The system notifies that the big spending mission has been completed, granting 1,000 big spender points and 200 essences of Purple Thunder Mad Lion Plasma. Transcendent Tribulation Realm, peak of the 9th layer, a demonic beast that endured the 9 celestial tribulations. Yao wonders what exactly enduring 9 celestial tribulations means, and why the title is so long. The system explains that on the Zhuantian continent, for cultivators or great demons to ascend to the higher realm after reaching the peak of the 9th layer, they must survive the 9 celestial tribulations. Fang concludes that this is the strength classification level after the peak of the 9th layer of the Transcendent Tribulation Realm. Kai says he was fortunate to taste such a delicacy thanks to him, but still considers that great demon essence a waste. The protagonist asks whether he is referring to that essence. Kai senses the aura and confirms that yes, it is the refined plasma essence of that Purple Thunder Mad Lion. Yes, says he can give him some, but the rest is reserved for his dog at home. Kai asks whether that is a nickname for some friend. The sect master explains that it is not human, just an ordinary stray dog that, after swallowing more than 2,000 third-grade 9-striped cleansing pills, is already evolving into a great demon. Kai becomes indignant. Feng insists it is just a normal dog, and Kai asks if he is joking, questioning again whether this is serious. The protagonist says that if there is nothing else, he will take his leave. Wuming asks Kai to accompany him, saying he will give him an opportunity. Kai asks why they are leaving, says they have not answered his question, and wants to know what opportunity it is, what kind of chance the sect can offer. At Wuming's residence, Kai asks what that is and whether it is poison. The sect master replies that if their relationship were not so close, he would not offer something like this, asking whether he has never seen it before and explaining that it is an enlightenment pill. Kai asks if it is real. The sect master says he will certainly be grateful. Kai swallows the pill and enters a state of enlightenment. 20 minutes later, he looks at his own hands and becomes extremely excited. Wuming explains that this enlightenment pill also came from that boy. Besides the 70 he gave to the sect, there are still 20 more reserved to feed his little dog. Xia also mentioned this, saying that if he helped Feng with tasks, he would receive a 9-leaf resurrection herb. He no longer cares about the auction house and has become an elder in his own daughter's sect, and that fellow Bai was supposed to supervise his daughter, but now he is completely tied to the sect. Wuming asks where he is going, since he has not even had a drink yet. Kai talks about having a drink and tells him to shut up. The sect master says he was talking to him and asks why he is so irritated. Kai replies that he is getting old, completely alone, that besides him he has no friends or family, that he should have had a daughter about Xian's age, and Wuming apologizes for touching a sore spot. Kai says he did not even mention that his daughter founded a sect, that he is going to his daughter's sect to become an elder and settle down. Someone moves quickly and the sect master explodes, saying he has no shame, that he should come back immediately, asking who was the one that said he would never join a faction, who claimed he hated rules and wanted to be free, and now he even wants a home. He bets he has his eye on something his disciple possesses. He thinks he has to admit that if he were not the master, he would also want to be an elder. Suddenly he remembers something and says he cannot keep something as good as the essence of a great demon to himself. He must inform the 5 Grand Elders immediately. In Ye Feng's courtyard, the protagonist comments that the most extraordinary peaks nurture wild spirits, that the brilliance of the sea and the full moon overflows in the cup like majestic snowy mountains. Zhao says he knows he likes to spend money, but he cannot reach the point of insanity. Ye replies that he needs to stay calm and not panic over anything, telling him to look at the door, which broke again. Zhao says he just went to the scripture pavilion and found records about the purple thunder mad lion. When it grows to the size of a small mountain, it means it is a great demon that has reached the transcendent tribulation realm. Feng says he already knows and asks whether he can borrow books from the scripture pavilion. Zhao tells him to forget it, that he cannot explain anything to a prodigy like him. The sect master asks them to follow the junior brother to the Star Spirit sect founded by the Holy Maiden, so they will have to get used to his extravagant and wasteful style. Zhao leaves. The protagonist starts fixing the door and comments that he broke the door, said a bunch of strange things and left, came just to mess with the door. A few minutes later, Ye finishes the repair and says that now he can finally sleep in peace, until someone breaks the door again. It is Chu, asking if he is sleeping. Feng, lying on the ground, says there is no need to explain, he already understands. Those 10 drops of great demon plasma essence are his way of showing filial respect and thinks he just wanted to sleep. Chu says this is embarrassing, and the protagonist concludes that the master must have betrayed him again. Chu tells him to rest well and to look for him if he needs anything, and he decides that as for the door, it is better to forget it. He will change courtyards. The next morning, Ye wakes up saying that changing courtyards was great and wonders what he will do today. The system notifies Big Spender loot. Tranquil Spirit Incense, 100 units. Made from the Millennium Black Divinity Mysterious Tree, when lit it releases an aroma that calms the mind, and cultivating in this state greatly increases efficiency. Feng finds it interesting and wonders whether lighting the incense will make sleep more comfortable. Outside, Wuming comments that, observing the past few days, this boy always brings out something good every morning. First, in the Star Spirit sect, he used broken remnants of Abyssal Sword Intent to strengthen the dog. Then, on the way back, he threw out high-quality spirit stones early in the morning. Yesterday, it was the body of the Purple Thunder Mad Lion. The sect master says he suspects that this prodigy only has a good day if he spends something valuable every morning. Suddenly, Wuming smells something, widens his eyes and runs, saying it is Tranquil Spirit Incense, but definitely not ordinary. The protagonist notices someone barging into the room and asks what they want, whether there is a problem with the door again. Tianxing approaches, sniffs and confirms that it really is Tranquil Spirit Incense. Ye asks what is wrong with all of them. Tianxing asks what spiritual wood that incense is made from, and Feng answers that it comes from the Millennium Black Divinity Mysterious Tree. Tianxing comments that this tree is not bad at all. The protagonist retorts that is all he can say, just not bad, and concludes that then this so-called Millennium Black Divinity Mysterious Tree must not be that impressive, thinking it is not as good as the things he gave before and that this time they are looking down on it. Tianxing merely hopes that none of them ascend right now. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content. Thank you.